Hello guys, welcome to Fanfiction Audiobook. Here you find original fan-made audio stories. Enjoy the journey into new worlds.
The Slime King, reincarnated to build the ultimate slime farm. Part 1. Drip tilde. A drop of ice-cold water fell from a stalactite. Ah. In the darkness, a translucent white orb let out an unintelligible sound, swaying as it rose from the ground. Awu tilde, that was such a comfortable sleep. Zhonghua opened his eyes, only to be met with pitch-black darkness where he couldn't even see his own hand. Where am I? What happened? Oh, I remember now. I was hit by a car and then fell into the river. Am I dead? Drip tilde. Another drop of water landed on the white spherical creature's body. This chilly feeling, it's water. Wait. Only then did Zhonghua realize something was wrong with his body. He couldn't feel any so-called limbs, nor could he sense the ground or walls around him. Gradually, Zhonghua adapted to the dark environment. Through the faint glimmers emitted by unknown objects, he began to see his surroundings clearly. It seemed to be a cave. Large amounts of plants grew where the ground should be, and the faint light seemed to scatter into the space along with the plants' respiration. Wait, what were those shimmering crystals? Everything was so novel. Following his consciousness, Zhonghua found the distance between himself and one of those shimmering crystals was constantly shortening. Am I moving? And by floating, the plants beneath him moved unhurriedly toward his rear. Zhonghua was somewhat speechless and subconsciously reached out to touch the top of his head. A slick, rounded texture, both his head and his palm, felt this strange sensation. I really am dead. I'm probably in some kind of ghost form now. Is this what the world after death looks like? Zhonghua floated over to the shimmering crystal. Using its faint light, he saw the image reflected on its smooth surface. In the reflection, a white, rounded orb with two black beady eyes was staring back at him. Two tiny, tender fangs peeked out from the corners of its curved mouth. It looked exactly like a shy ghost from Mario. No, not exactly, it looked even more derpy cute than a shy ghost. Whatever, it is what it is. Zhonghua extended a conical limb that could probably be called a right arm, and poked the crystal in front of him. The moment he touched the crystal, Zhonghua felt a strange throb. It seemed like he could eat it. Following his instincts, Zhonghua began feeding. Faint wisps of light were drawn from the crystal, passing through his arm and into his body. Confirmation complete. Acquired extra skill. Magic consumption. Note. Magic ore. A product of mutation caused by ores in high magicule areas absorbing magicules over many years. A very valuable item. A mechanical female voice suddenly echoed in Zhonghua's mind. Quote exclamation mark quote. Zhonghua was startled and subconsciously retracted his short little hand. Who's there? The little white ball flew upward warily, spinning around with a fierce but adorable expression as he scanned his surroundings. System. Zhonghua tried calling out in his mind to what he assumed was a system. There was no response. After a long while, Zhonghua didn't hear any more sounds. The surroundings were as silent as a haunted house. The little white ball swallowed hard and resumed the feeding activity that had just been interrupted. As the last wisp of light was absorbed by Zhonghua, the crystal before him turned into a plain, rough stone. Magic ore, magicules. As a fan of web novels, Zhonghua quickly parsed some information from that phrase of unknown origin. Perhaps what he needed right now were these so-called magicules, and his ability was to draw magicules from these objects. He simply gathered magicules in his arm and struck the stone that had just provided him with a meal. Boom! Shattered stones scattered across the ground. It seems that without the support of magicules, these extraordinary items lose their extraordinary properties, Zhonghua muttered to himself while floating in the air. Suspending himself in front of another piece of magic ore, Zhonghua extended his conical arm again. With his first experience under his belt, a large amount of light was drawn from the ore, and the glow of the magic ore dimmed at a rate visible to the naked eye. After an unknown amount of time, the moment Zhonghua's palm touched a magic ore, the energy within it would be sucked dry instantly. The efficiency is a bit low. The little white ball floated in the air, his two short arms patting his round body rhythmically while the little tail behind him wagged restlessly. I wonder if magicules can be extracted from these plants. Maybe I can use a more efficient method. With a trial and error mindset, Zhonghua floated downward and opened his mouth. A massive suction force was generated in the cave, and countless plants were sucked into the little white ball's mouth. Confirmation complete. Acquired extra skill. Million consumption. Confirmation complete. Acquired extra skill. Stomach. Due to acquiring magic consumption, million consumption, and stomach, the skills have evolved into the unique skill, absorber. Ugh, the taste is weird. After savoring the taste of the grass he had just eaten, Zhang Hua's rounded body shook irregularly. But what on earth is absorber? Magicules were constantly being extracted within Zhang Hua's body, and along with it, his body began to emit a faint fluorescence. Note: Hippocute grass. Grows only in areas with high magicule concentrations. A valuable medicinal herb. Well, it appeared again. Over the past few days, this unknown voice had appeared several times, vanishing again after answering some of Zhang Hua's questions about magicules in the world. It seems like a derpy cute system that's broken for some reason. Zhang Hua had complained about this more than once. Controlling his body to phase, Zhang Hua passed through a cave wall that wasn't very thick. After these days of experimentation, he had discovered the unique aspects of this body. First, according to the derpy cute system, his race was an incorporeal spiritual life form. As the name suggested, it was a spiritual life form without a physical body. Although extremely rare, as the weakest magicule aggregate race in this world, it could even compete with the most common low-level monster, the slime, for the bottom spot on the power rankings. However, such a weak creature possessed unparalleled vitality. Because it lacked a physical form, only attacks targeting the soul and spirit could cause actual damage to this body. Being a spiritual life form, the existence of a physical body became optional. As a body aggregated from magicules, it only needed enough magicules to recover from any damage sustained. At the same time, after phasing, he could pass through anything with the concept of matter. This ability made it much more convenient for Zhang Hua to explore the cave. Plop. Plop tilde. A strange sound came from the distance, sounding like a water bag full of liquid repeatedly hitting the ground. Zhang Hua looked toward the source of the sound with curiosity. Although he wasn't certain, in all these days, he was the only mobile, living being he had seen. Following his curious instincts, Zhang Hua phased his body and slowly floated toward the cave where the sound was coming from. Crossing the final wall, its form was finally revealed before Zhang Hua's eyes, aided by the faint glow emitted by the magicules. A blue, translucent jelly-like monster was hopping continuously between magic ore and patches of hippocute grass. Strangely, with every hop of this jelly mass, the things beneath it would mysteriously disappear. As if they were devoured. It looks like it's the same type of stand. Wait, no, ability is mine. Zhang Hua sighed with emotion as he placed his hand on a piece of magic ore. The skill absorber activated, and under Zhang Hua's control, the magicules in the magic ore were completely drained. For a long time afterward, Zhang Hua followed this otherworldly creature, observing its way of life. Crawling, rolling, jumping, eating grass, eating ore, this seemed to be the monster's way of survival. It's eaten so much, yet it doesn't seem to have excreted anything. Come to think of it, I haven't excreted anything either, have I? It doesn't look very intelligent. This must be the weakest monster, the slime, that the silly system mentioned. Note: Target is a viscous spiritual life form, a low-level monster found everywhere on the continent. They become overabundant in the summer. You're actually answering questions on your own. Note: this is the effect of the unique skill coordinator, not a silly system. Additionally, the unique skill coordinator is currently stable and can perform analysis in response to various situations. The little white ball nodded thoughtfully. Speaking of which, I think I have two other unique skills. One is called Absorber, and the other was called. Note: the unique skill Absorber has the following abilities. Million Consumption. Generates a powerful suction within the body, capable of absorbing targets into the body. Magic Consumption. Racial Instinct Enhancement Effect. Can drain all magicule-based skill effects. Magicule Analysis. Capable of analyzing the unique properties of absorbed magicules. Stomach. Stores devoured objects. Additionally, it can store materials generated after analysis. Items stored in the stomach are unaffected by time. Categorize and Integrate. Analyzes and categorizes objects absorbed into the stomach. Note: the unique skill Conceptualizer has the following abilities. Magicule Conception. Can conceptualize magicules according to one's will, construct them into magic models, and release them. Material Conception. Can condense magicules into matter and shape them into physical entities according to one's will. Note: the unique skill Coordinator has the following abilities. Thought Acceleration. Increases the speed of perception by 1,000 times. Analytical Appraisal. Analyzes and appraises the target object. Parallel Processing. Can separate the matter to be analyzed from conscious thought for calculation. Conception assistance helps complete the details of conceptualized objects and magic, providing completed mental models. Can also connect with a designated target to enhance various attributes. All-encompassing manifestation covers all unshielded phenomena in this world. Looks pretty good. The little white ball was very satisfied and decided to test her current strength. Zhonghua looked down at the slime, which had been dazed in place for a while, a fierce glint in his eyes. Magic models. Well then, I'll test them on you first. Note. Unique skill conceptualizer activated. Magical drainage, complete. Magical attribute conversion, fire, complete. Magical node conception, complete. Magical node connection, complete. Magic model, flame, conception complete. Faint specks of light seeped from Zhonghua's round body, then rapidly ignited into flames. The cave was illuminated by the firelight. The spatial currents caused by the combustion made the hippocute grass below sway continuously, and magical specks sprayed out along with their movement. Confirmation complete. Successfully acquired the extra skill flame. To commemorate my rebirth, die. Zhonghua's thoughts shifted, and the flames surrounding him drifted toward the slime. Boom. The fire expanded rapidly the moment it touched the slime, enveloping its entire body in a vortex of flame, burning it continuously. The leaves of the hippocute grass around the slime quickly turned brown and withered under the intense heat of the flame. It's been burning for quite a while. It should be dead by now, right? Note. Burning time, 37 seconds. You don't need to mention such unimportant things. Zhonghua complained. Note. Target's life signs still exist. Analysis. The target likely possesses heat resistance. Skill flame is ineffective. Swoosh. A charred stone broke through the vortex of flame and flew toward Zhonghua. Intangibility. Zhonghua's body turned illusory the moment the stone touched him. The stone passed through the little white ball's phantom and crashed into the cave wall behind her. The flame burning the slime gradually vanished from its surface. Great Sage. The slime called out repeatedly in its mind. Analysis complete. Flame, a cluster of fire attribute magicals with a burning effect. An enemy. The slime was slightly wary. That's right, in a cave this big, it's impossible for me to be the only monster. Great Sage, can you analyze the opponent's location? Answer. Magical analysis complete. Target location analysis complete. In the slime's vision, Zhonghua's blue phantom was drifting continuously. Is this a ghost? Answer. Nature analysis complete. The target is an incorporeal spiritual life form. Physical attacks are ineffective, lacking necessary means to combat the enemy. Proposal. Flee immediately. Oh, I see. The slime nodded its body solemnly. Then, a massive amount of fire seeped from its body and exploded within the cave. The sudden light stung Zhonghua's eyes, which had grown accustomed to the darkness. While Zhonghua's vision was impaired, the slime quickly fled the battlefield. Zhonghua, who had quickly absorbed the flames to re-adapt to the dark environment, was a bit stunned. Can slimes breathe fire? And this slime seems quite clever. Note. The target may be a special monster. A special monster. Well, it seems like fun. Can you track its location? Note. Analyzing target magicals, analysis complete. Magical drainage, complete. Magical node conception, complete. Magical node connection, complete. Magic model, mana tracking, complete. Confirmation complete. Successfully acquired the extra skill mana tracking. Use extra skill mana tracking. Yes, no. Yes. Zhonghua activated the skill. A pale blue trail of magicals wound its way into the distance. Change to direct distance. The magical trail slowly dissipated, turning into a curve that pointed toward the general direction. At the end of the curve was a slime moving rapidly through an underground river. Found you. A smile appeared on the shy ghost's face, looking particularly eerie under the faint glow of the surrounding magicals. I am a human who reincarnated as a slime. I should have been able to enjoy my new life, but now I have to run. Because a fire-breathing ghost is hunting me down. The most important thing is, I can't beat him. Relying on the newly acquired extra skill water pressure propulsion, the slime moved rapidly through the underground river. Great Sage, can you calculate the exit location of this underground cave? Less than answer. Insufficient conditions, unable to analyze. Greater than. Great Sage, why can't I defeat that ghost? Less than answer. The target is a spiritual life form, physical attacks are ineffective. Only attack methods targeting the mind and soul can cause damage. Greater than. I see. Wait, I'm also a spiritual life form. The slime seemed to have found a blind spot. Less than answer. Viscous spiritual life form. Possesses a physical body. Magical's energy attacks can cause substantial damage. Analysis. The target has Magical's attack capabilities, therefore, escaping quickly is the optimal solution. Greater than. Less than warning. Target's Magicals are approaching rapidly. Greater than. What? The slime paled in shock and increased the speed of its water pressure propulsion. Zhang Hua, who had phased his body, passed through the cave walls and moved in a straight line toward the slime. The movement speed seems a bit slow. Zhang Hua wagged the small tail behind him, conceive. Analyst activated quickly, and flames spewed out from under the armpits of the little white ball's hands. Using the reaction force of the flame jet. Wahoo! An unintelligible cry of excitement came from the shy ghost's mouth as he charged forward. Confirmation complete. Successfully acquired extra skill flame propulsion. Speaking of which, according to the explanation from coordinator, it took 90 days just for it to fuse with my soul. Moreover, to answer my questions, it underwent self-modification and even misappropriated part of the authority of the voice of the world. So that skill announcement just now was the so-called voice of the world. Note. Yes. How concise, Zhang Hua lamented as he quickly passed through wall after wall. But, this ability is just too great. Knowledgeable, gentle, considerate, and not clingy. It's really. A girl's bright, smiling face surfaced in Zhang Hua's mind. So it's already been 3 months. Zhang Hua felt a bit melancholy. Suppressing the memories deep in his heart, the slime's blue jelly-like body was right before his eyes. You can't run. The words, filtered through the shy ghost's eerie vocal system, turned into a terrifying ghostly howl. Splat. The slime slammed headfirst into the air in front of it, flattening into a pancake shape before bouncing off and landing on the ground with a wet thud. Phasing failed for the first time. Zhang Hua, who had turned into a phantom, also slammed straight into an invisible wall, then slowly slid down while stuck to it. Zhang Hua floated up unsteadily and patted the air wall in front of him, looking speechless. There's actually an invisible wall in this map. Did I reincarnate into a game? Speaking of which, things like skills really do seem a bit like a game. Can you hear my voice? Little ones. A strange voice rang out directly in Zhang Hua's heart. Little guys. Zhang Hua looked at the puddle of slime behind him. Is this blob of slime talking to me? Is it pretending to be mature to try and escape? But someone I can communicate with, maybe they know how to get out of here. Little ones, can you hear my voice? The voice echoed in his heart once more. Zhang Hua looked around, but in the vast space, there were still only him and the slime. Is it really him? Hey, you can hear me, right? Answer me. The tone became arrogant, tinged with a hint of anger at being ignored. Zhang Hua gritted his teeth. A mere slime. It's ordering me. It's actually ordering me. Hey, answer me quickly. 2 anger veins popped up on the shy ghost's head. A mere slime, a mere slime. Shut up. You slime. Roar. Baldy. Slime. Ho, oh ho, you dare call me that. You've got quite the nerve. It's been a long time since I've had visitors, and I thought I'd give you some face by striking up a conversation, but it seems you're all tired of living. Thump, thump. Heavy footsteps echoed in the cave, and 2 bright points of light slowly emerged from the darkness behind the invisible wall. The faint glow of magicals could only illuminate a tiny part of the newcomer's massive body. I can't win, there's no way I can win. So it wasn't the slime talking. This was the thought in Zhang Hua's mind. 0.1 seconds later, he followed his heart's choice. I'm sorry, unknown powerhouse, I didn't notice you. I thought it was the slime behind me talking. Ho, is that so? It seems there's some friction between the two of you. A ghost hunting a slime. Kiki, kaha, kahahaha. The giant creature suddenly burst into wild laughter. An extremely rare magical's aggregate life form and a low-level monster that basically doesn't think and only repeats absorption, splitting, and regeneration getting into a conflict. This is the funniest joke I've heard in the 300 years I've been sealed. Zhang Hua suddenly felt a strange ripple, and the next moment, an unfamiliar voice also echoed in his heart. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to reply, so I just tried to respond with whatever came to mind. I'm really sorry. Also, I can only see that ghost hunting me, so I don't know what you look like. Is this the blob of slime's voice? Zhang Hua thought to himself. Using the word, blob, is very rude, hey. And, hunting someone down the moment you meet, is that the etiquette of this world? The slime started making a fuss. Able to think independently and possessing your own intelligence, and it seems your magical's content isn't low either. So, are you named monsters or special monsters? The big guy watched the 2 little things on the ground with interest. Named monsters. Special monsters. Zhang Hua blinked his bead-like eyes. What are those? I seem to have been born not long ago. I'm still exploring the common sense of this world. You were also born not long ago. I've only been born for 90 odd days. Wait, could you also be? The slime's words surprised Zhang Hua. Could it be that he is too? Thinking of this, Zhang Hua posed a question through his heart. Odd changes, even stays the same. Silence. It seemed not. Wait, maybe he's a foreigner. Zhang Hua's imagination ran wild, and he blurted out the next slogan. Hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron. Carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon. The next second, the slime finished the sequence. You too. You too. From Earth. Both said at once. Hee, I'm getting a little excited. Zhang Hua scratched his head. Right. Two glowing eyes looked past Zhang Hua at the slime behind him. You just said you can't see things. How about this? I'll teach you a skill so you can see this world clearly. This skill will be quite useful for you too, so why don't you try it as well? This sentence was directed at Zhang Hua. As a condition, I need you two to promise me one thing after you learn it. Please say it. The slime looked eager to try. Zhang Hua was somewhat silent. What condition? Don't worry, it's very simple. Just don't be afraid of me after you can see, and then come chat with me again next time. That's all. It's a pretty good deal for you, isn't it? Is that all it takes? The slime seemed to find it somewhat unbelievable. Yeah, actually, I was sealed here 300 years ago, and I've been incredibly idle and bored since then. The shadow's voice sounded a bit lonely, so, how about it? Have you made up your minds? I understand. The slime jumped up. Although I'm a bit curious about this seal, I'm more than happy to accept. And you, little guy. The shadow looked at the little white ball floating up from the ground again. Even though you make it sound so lighthearted. Zhang Hua floated wobbling in the air. You're actually very lonely, aren't you? Lonely. How could that be? I am the dignified storm dragon, Beldora. How could I be lonely? Alright, if you say you're not lonely, then you're not. I accept as well. Zhang Hua shrugged his barely visible shoulders. HMPH tilde. Zhang Hua thought he heard the shadow in front of him let out a soft HMPH, though he wasn't sure if it was his imagination. Lord Beldora forgives your insolence. Now, there's a skill called Magic Sense. Can you use it? No, I can't. The little white ball and the little blue ball shook their heads in sync. It's a skill that allows you to perceive the surrounding magicules. Magicules are an important element that makes up this world. Do you both know that? Can I see just by perceiving magicules? The slime was somewhat skeptical. It seems all objects in this world have more or less magicules within them. Being able to perceive magicules naturally means you can perceive all objects. Zhang Hua used the coordinator's reply to answer the slime's doubt. Yes, that's roughly correct. This skill isn't difficult. For monsters like you, it can be considered an instinct as natural as breathing. As long as you observe how magicules disturb light and sound waves, you can easily use this ability. By the way, do you know that light and sound are waves? First, try using the magic power within your bodies to control the magicules. Following the method provided by the shadow, Zhang Hua began learning the skill. Like this, Zhang Hua tried to draw the power of so-called magicules from within his body. Come to think of it, the energy the conceptualizer used to construct flame was magicules, right? It seems I can control the intensity of the magicule flow. Indeed, just as the shadow said, controlling these magicules was as simple as breathing. Wait, breathing. The control is surprisingly smooth. Now, start feeling the flow of magicules outside your body. Once you complete this step, you've succeeded. Feel the magicules outside my body. Zhang Hua opened his eyes. At that moment, a world resembling a rainbow fairyland appeared before Zhang Hua's eyes. Multicolored magicules were scattered around him, sometimes dancing, sometimes flowing, ever-changing. Confirmation complete. Successfully acquired. Extra skill Magic Sense. Note. Use extra skill Magic Sense. Yes, no. Yes. The moment Zhang Hua controlled the coordinator to activate the skill, he fell straight down from the air. Giant Shadow. Slime who gained vision after Great Sage processed the data. Then, wisps of white smoke slowly rose from Zhang Hua's head. What's wrong with it? The shadow had clearly never seen such a scene and looked at the slime with some confusion. Probably, the CPU burned out. What you? Note. Coordinator's auxiliary calculation ability activated. Magic Sense information processing, complete. Note. Comprehensive calculation results show the host body is unable to process the information formed by the extra skill magic sense. The optimal solution has been automatically selected. Extra skill magic sense has successfully synchronized with unique skill coordinator. From now on, all intelligence will be managed by coordinator. Pop tilde. A puff of black smoke emerged from Zhonghua's wide-open mouth. Saved. Zhonghua rolled on the ground and pushed away the slime's extended phantom limb. His vision expanded significantly. Things he couldn't see clearly before were now displayed vividly in Zhonghua's eyes. Hey, are you alright? The shadow's voice surfaced in Zhonghua's heart, seemingly carrying a hint of concern. I'm fine, Zhonghua shook his head and floated up from the ground again. It seems I've learned it. Thank you very much. Yeah, I've learned it too. Thank you very much. The slime also hopped over to the front of the invisible wall. Oh, it really is a dragon. Zhonghua looked at the black shadow. Although he had prepared himself mentally before seeing the giant shadow, he was still stunned by the black dragon before him. Its muscle lines were as if carved by a knife, possessing an explosive aesthetic beauty. Jet black scales were neatly distributed across the dragon's body. Its massive body shone with a luster like obsidian. It had 6 fingers, with sharp claws capable of piercing through anything. There were 2 pairs of wings on its back, one large and one small, with protrusions at the ends like indestructible swords. The ominous scales covering its body were emitting a faint purple light. It looked like black light probably because the aura on its body was mixed with the purple light. So cool. Zhonghua marveled, forming a sharp contrast with the slime beside him, which was scurrying around in fear. You're afraid of me, aren't you? The dragon's head lowered slightly, staring at the slime. No. The slime shook and returned to its original state. It seemed its psychological recovery ability was decent. Good, the dragon nodded, then allow me to officially introduce myself. My name is Storm Dragon, Beldora, one of the only 4 remaining true dragons in the world. Next, Beldora explained some common knowledge of this world to the slime and Zhonghua, including the distinctions between monsters, special monsters, and named monsters, the difference between them and ordinary ghosts and slimes, as well as the summoned, otherworlders, and reincarnated of this world. Also its past, and the reason why it was sealed here. Great. Then can you be my friend? The slime's voice came from the side. Despite being a top-tier creature of this time, it's surprisingly simple-minded. Being sealed in a place like this, even a normal person wouldn't be able to stand it after a few months, let alone 300 years. Well, Zhonghua felt a bit embarrassed. If it's okay, do you want to be my friend too? What did you say? A mere low-level monster. Actually wants to be friends with the feared storm dragon Beldora. No, if you don't want to. The slime seemed to be frightened again. Through the storm dragon's various gestures, Zhonghua seemed to see the Tsunere look Miss Mu Xuan used to have. A bold thought appeared in Zhonghua's mind. This dragon couldn't be a Tsunere, could it? I idiot. What are you talking about? Who said I didn't want to? If you two insist. I can actually consider it. Zhonghua and the slime glanced at each other. Is it a Tsunere? It's a Tsunere. They saw the meaning in each other's eyes. A Tsunere storm dragon. Watching the storm dragon peek over at them, Zhonghua couldn't help but chuckle. Exchanging a glance with the slime, Zhonghua replied via telepathy. Yeah, we insist. Hurry up and decide. If you refuse, we'll leave immediately and won't come back to bother you again. Yeah, that's right, hurry up and decide. The slime chimed in from the side. There's really no helping you two, so I'll just be your friend. Be grateful. Yes, thank you, Lord Beldora the Storm Dragon Zhonghua teased. Then please treat us well the slime extended a phantom limb toward the dragon. Let's shake hands. On either side of this thin air wall, a milky white translucent cone, a blue-white translucent jelly cone, and a shimmering, metallic lustered claw touched at a single point. Oh, that's right. Let me give you 2 names, and you can discuss a name for me as well. Give us names, so that the fact we are equals is engraved upon our souls. It's like a human surname. If I name you, it can also act as a divine protection. You are still nameless, but once you have a name, you can become a named monster. The slime hopped around, hesitating. Storm. Squall. How about squall? That doesn't sound good. It sounds like it would make the opponent win without even fighting. The little white ball interrupted the little blue ball. I remember there's a river in France called. Let's not bring today's French bashing into this other world. The little blue ball retorted. Then, Tempest. Zhonghua tilted her head and suggested. Storm. Tempest, huh? The slime pondered for a moment, its blue-white body seeming to shimmer. That's it. Tempest. How about, Tempest? You really know your stuff, little ghost. Zhonghua coughed twice to suppress the shame of failing the Set 4 and CET 6 exams 6 times, then looked at the storm dragon. It's decided. What do you think of the name, Tempest? What? Tempest. The slime was so startled it collapsed into a blob. What a magnificent name. From today on, I shall be called the Storm Dragon, Beldora Tempest. It unexpectedly suited its taste. Zhonghua's black bean-like eyes squinted into two slits. Then, I decide to bestow upon you the name Rimuru. As for you, I decide to bestow upon you the name Teresa. From today on, you two shall be called Rimuru Tempest and Teresa Tempest. Teresa, does that sound like a girl's name? Zhonghua, now named Teresa, felt a certain change forming deep within her soul. Coordinator, can this infinite prison be undone? Zhonghua, no. Teresa, pressed her right hand against the air wall of the infinite prison, struggling to absorb a trace of magicules, after which the vacancy of magicules quickly circulated and smoothed over. Notice. Analysis failed. Necessary conditions missing. What are the necessary conditions? Notice. Analysis. Long-term analysis. Activating unique skill predator, attempting to prey upon unique skill infinite prison. Predation failed. Rimuru, attempting to rescue Beldora, also failed. Answer. Partial analysis of unique skill infinite prison complete. Hints for escape methods are as follows. Cannot escape with physical body. Probability of destroying the prison with physical attacks is 0. Cannot analyze an escape method via imaginary space. The same situation applies, because the object is trapped within infinite prison, it must be analyzed from the inside. Therefore, complete analysis is currently impossible. Probability of escape is a thought form only is 1%. If an external vessel is prepared and the thought form is transferred over, the success rate is 3%. Furthermore, this process is equivalent to reincarnation. If compatibility with the vessel is poor, all memories and abilities will be erased. End of report. Answer. It is possible to store the object, Beldora Tempest, within the stomach of the unique skill predator. Rimuru's great sage provided the analyzed solution. What are you doing? Well, being trapped here, as friends, we can't just stand by, right? Teresa explained, then pressed her hand onto the infinite prison again, fully activating absorber. Unlike the sensation of absorbing other magicules, which was as smooth as drinking water, absorbing magicules from the infinite prison was like trying to drink bubble tea with a straw that had been blocked by a pearl. However, the effect seemed decent. A small portion of the infinite prison's magicules had been absorbed. Beldora, I have a way, but it's a bit unbelievable. Upon learning that it could completely devour the infinite prison, Rimuru hesitated for a moment before telling the two of them the solution. It's decided. Rather than waiting here for you to return, it would be more fun to work together with you to break infinite prison. After listening to Rimuru's explanation, Teresa thought for a moment and asked Coordinator if it could use its conceptual design to assist Predator in its analysis. After receiving an affirmative answer, Teresa used Coordinator to send a request for assistance to Rimuru. Answer. Received a request for assistance initiated by Unique Skill Coordinator. Accept. Yes, no. Teresa explained Coordinator's abilities to the two of them and successfully established an assistance connection line with Rimuru's Great Sage. Notice. Assistance relationship established with Unique Skill Great Sage. Now beginning to assist in the analysis of Unique Skill Infinite Prison. Just as Rimuru and Teresa established the assistance relationship, both monsters' bodies simultaneously emitted a dreamlike, smoky purple light. Then, the voice of the world appeared in the minds of these two orbs. Confirmation complete. Successfully acquired Cooperative Skill Magicule Analysis Space. Notice. Cooperative Skill Magicule Analysis Space, a unique space shared by Unique Skill Absorber and Unique Skill Predator. In this space, the efficiency of magicule analysis will increase by 5%. Rimuru, did you hear the voice of the world's message? Teresa poked Rimuru. Magicule analysis space. Rimuru nodded its body and looked at Beldora. It looks like the day you break the seal has been moved up quite a bit. Cooperative skill magicule analysis space. This is the first time I've heard of a cooperative skill. How interesting. With the three of us working together, maybe I'll be able to get out by tomorrow. Beldora seemed quite curious about this cooperative skill as well. Then, I'm going to eat you now, so hurry up and break through this seal. Rimuru reminded. Leave it to me. It won't be long before I can see you two again. Seeing that Veldora was ready, Rimuru turned into a large amount of slime liquid and enveloped the infinite prison. In the blink of an eye, Veldora's massive body disappeared from before their eyes. Notice. Target object, Veldora has successfully entered cooperative skill magical analysis space. Analysis starting. After taking Veldora into his body, Rimuru and Teresa began working hard to leave this cave. First and foremost was the creation and use of magic. Swish. A water blade spat from Rimuru's mouth, cutting through a giant stalactite on the cave ceiling. The cut was smooth, and it looked quite powerful. High-level skill water manipulation. Rimuru exclaimed upon hearing the notification from the voice of the world. Such a powerful water blade naturally made Teresa, who was floating nearby testing her conceptualized fire blade, feel psychologically unbalanced. Even though I have conceptualizer, why is my skill creation speed not as fast as this blob of a slime? Due to an incorrect magical node placement, the gradually forming fire blade made a strange sound and dissipated into the air, plunging the cave back into darkness. Failed again. Rimuru shook his head and hopped toward Teresa. Well, Teresa, have you thought about a different way to create skills? Rimuru bounced beneath Teresa. For fire, condensing it into a ray might be easier to control than condensing it into an arc. Shut up. The little white ball rolled her eyes at the slime beneath her and floated a bit higher. However, fire, maybe she could add an explosive element. Note. Unique skill conceptualizer activated. Magical absorption, complete, magical attribute conversion, fire, complete, magical attribute conversion, earth, complete, magical node conceptualization, complete, magical node connection, complete. Magic model. Wait, coordinator, here, and here, modify it slightly, yeah, a bit more to the right. Note. This modification will cause magical instability. Instability is exactly what I want. It's best if the explosive reaction can be made more violent. Note. Modification complete. Magic model construction complete. A dazzling lava fireball appeared beside Teresa through the gathering of magicals, with reddish gold flares constantly rippling on its surface. Go. Following Teresa's will, the fireball magic was hurled out. Boom. Dazzling firelight was released from the impact point of the fireball and the cave wall. The surging flames, carrying high temperatures, instantly melted the cave wall. The flames gradually dissipated, revealing a newly formed cave, its edges covered in liquid that had turned into lava. High-temperature lava emitting a reddish glow flowed continuously from the cave entrance. No, the power is still not enough. I should be able to modify it again. Mumbling, Teresa summoned explosion flame once more. Through the conceptualization of conceptualizer and coordinator, the energy of explosion flame gradually became restrained. The spherical magic slowly blurred into a flame, with dazzling gold entwining around the semi-transparent red flame. Just by hovering beside the little white ball, the scorching heat caused the surrounding space to distort. Teresa threw the flame into the underground lake. Hiss. Almost instantly, the flame's energy was released, and a large amount of mist evaporated from the lake. Once the steam cleared, only a thin layer of boiling water churned at the bottom of the lake, and the cave walls closest to the shore were already cracked. Confirmed. Successfully acquired extra skill explosion flame. Confirmed. Successfully acquired extra skill blazing flame. Due to the acquisition of skills flame, explosion flame, and blazing flame, they have collectively evolved into the extra skill stellar fire. So powerful. Seeing the blazing flame, Rimuru was so startled that two large nostrils appeared on him. With this, I should have some self-defense capability, right? Teresa nodded her large white head with emotion. So, coordinator, have you also played Final Fantasy XIV? Note. The conceptualizations of conceptualizer all originate from the host. Impossible. The little white ball protested. My max level black mage DPS never even reached 8000. Note. The conceptualizations of conceptualizer all originate from the host. Teresa. Well, Teresa, do you have anything to pack? If not, let's head out. Rimuru hopped toward the cave Teresa had just opened. Teresa looked at the cave she had made a mess of, her mouth twitching slightly. She then turned and fled, floating leisurely behind Rimuru. With the help of the map memory functions of Coordinator and Great Sage, they finally reached a cave they had never been to on the afternoon of the 16th day. With a sense of smell that Rimuru lacked, Teresa caught a fishy, foul stench. Ah! Teresa's two short arms struggled to cover the area above her mouth. So stinky. It smells like pickles and meat rotting together in the middle of summer. Only now do I realize what a wonderful thing it is to have no sense of smell. Although she couldn't see Rimuru's expression, Teresa was certain he was gloating. This slime was truly wicked. Anyway, speaking of which, Teresa, do you even have a nose? What nonsense are you talking about? How could I not? Teresa touched her smooth lips. I seem to really not have a nose. A roar came from the pitch-black cave, and then a giant unknown creature slithered out. It was a black snake. A pitch-black giant snake, its entire body covered in hard, sharp, piercing scales. Its snake eyes, emitting a white light, were staring fixedly at the two small things opposite it that radiated an astonishing aura. Here to steal territory. Sensing the threat of its territory being taken, the black snake raised its body and roared. A crimson snake tongue flicked from its wide-open maw, and dark purple venom splashed onto the ground as the tongue danced, making a hissing, corrosive sound. Deciding to strike first, the black snake used a skill, spraying purple poisonous mist from its mouth. Teresa glanced at the poisonous mist and leisurely activated Absorber. The magicals composing the toxic substances in the mist were absorbed by her, and the mist quickly dissipated. You or me? Teresa asked Rimuru through the soul corridor. Me. Rimuru was eager to try. He flattened himself into a pancake, then bounced up, spitting out a water blade that shone with white light. Bang! The black snake's head fell from midair, its massive body still thrashing wildly due to its nervous system, as a large amount of rubble scattered from the point of impact. If I eat this snake, can I get its abilities? Rimuru turned into a large puddle of water and enveloped the snake's head and body. Through the slime's transparent body, Teresa clearly saw the black snake being rapidly decomposed inside Rimuru. Bleg. 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 Although Rimuru had no sense of taste, perhaps due to some psychological effect, he vomited while distorting his body. It looks like it doesn't taste very good. Teresa gave up the idea of wanting to taste monsters. After all, she was a being with a sense of taste. Armor Lizard, turned into a pile of pixels by poison mist. Armor Lizard's right front leg, wrapped in mud and slow cooked by flame. The texture is dry and slightly sour, lacking seasoning, with meat somewhat like chicken breast. Evil Centipede, cut into pieces by water blade. Evil Centipede's middle segment, grilled with hippocoot grass juice and a small amount of salt over flame. Tender and juicy, springy and chewy, with a sweet taste and meat somewhat like shrimp. Black Spider, sliced frantically by water blade. Black spider steak cuts, marinated with hippocoot grass juice, black pepper, rosemary, and slime secretions, then grilled using the good thermal conductivity of the evil centipede's shell. The texture is soft, fully flavored, and the meat is somewhat like beef. Giant bat, crying while being sliced by Rimuru's water blade and then eaten. Giant bat, too many body fluids, and so ugly that Teresa couldn't work up an appetite, so it escaped. Texture unknown, meat quality unknown. Note: the above seasonings were kindly sponsored by the conceptualizer. Water spiders are so red. A-I-U-E-O. Rimuru, having regained the ability to speak, was hopping around while rehabilitating his speaking skills. Amazingly, Teresa, who knew nothing of Japanese, actually understood Rimuru's words. Through the coordinator's explanation, Teresa understood that sounds containing consciousness would be detected by magic sense and converted into information she could understand. Then I can also use Chinese to talk to Rimuru. Teresa asked in her heart. Note: correct. I am an alien. Teresa floated past the foolishly acting Rimuru with an expressionless face. After wandering in the cave for dozens of days, with the help of the great sage's mapping function, a rusty metal gate finally appeared in their field of vision not far away. The wooden parts of the gate had already rotted, and a dazzling light shone through the cracks. Looks like this is the exit. Rimuru watched the door from the ground. Try it. Flame condensed beside Teresa, with a faint tendency to transform into explosion flame. Wait. Something's happening. Seemingly hearing a creak, Rimuru quickly bounced up, knocking the airborne Teresa down and pinning her at the passage entrance. Quote! Quote. Teresa's fair body, pinned by Rimuru, quickly flushed with an imperceptible blush. The door opened automatically after a creak, and the sound of conversation came from the entrance. Finally open. It's all rusted, the keyhole is a mess. Can't be helped. No one's been in or out for 300 years. Records don't say anyone has ever entered here. By the way, is this really okay? We won't be suddenly attacked. Gahahaha. Don't worry. He might have been invincible 300 years ago, but he's just a big lizard. I've fought an armor lizard alone. Leave it to me. I've always doubted that. Was it made up? Isn't an armor lizard a rank B+ monster? It would be quite a stretch for Mr. Cabal to kill it single-handedly, wouldn't it? Idiot. I'm rank B2, okay. It's just a slightly larger lizard, no problem. Yes, I know, but we still have to be careful. Oh well, if anything happens, we can use my forced escape spell to get away. I know you two are close, but it's about time to be quiet. I'm going to activate invisibility. Judging by their attire, they were adventurers from this other world. The two men with longswords were likely warriors, and the girl with the staff was probably a healer. Somewhat flustered and exasperated, Teresa pushed Rimuru away, phased her body into the wall, and observed the three adventurers. Through magic sense, Teresa understood these strange and unfamiliar terms and sentences. Why would visitors appear now in a cave where no one has come for 300 years? Is it because of Beldora? Teresa quickly figured out the key to the problem. Humans must have a method to monitor the sealed evil dragon. It seems that monsters and humans in this world don't get along very well. Those who are not of our kin are bound to have different hearts. This was a principle passed down from her ancestors. Now, as a monster, Teresa had a clear understanding of her position after figuring out the worldview of this world. The three humans disappeared from the sight of the two little balls using strange spells. Sunlight poured in from outside the door. It was the warm scent of freedom. All right, let's go. Rimuru hopped towards the door. Watching the sphere's shadow hopping away, the corner of Teresa's mouth twitched slightly. Heartless. Lightly spitting out these words, the little white ball also floated towards the door. Finally, Zhonghua, who had reincarnated as a ghost, felt the air, sunlight, and greenery after a long time. The cave seemed to be located on a mountain. Strange patterns were carved on the top of the hill, with a faint purple light flickering within them. Maintaining a cautious attitude, Teresa pushed Rimuru towards the depths of the forest. It was getting late. Note: the current time is 1600. The coordinator's hourly chime reminded Teresa that the sunset on the horizon was gradually sinking. Rimuru, want one? Tossing a sour green fruit to Rimuru, Teresa bared her teeth and took a bite of another green fruit in her hand. Rimuru extended his body, transforming it into a tentacle, caught the green fruit in the air, and then took a bite with a manifested mouth. Well, it's still a bit uncomfortable not having a sense of taste. Rimuru felt a bit empty. Unlike the cave where they were attacked by monsters all day long, they didn't seem to encounter many monsters in the forest. In the several days since leaving the cave, they only seemed to have encountered a small wolf dog. It watched Rimuru, who was practicing his vocalizations, with predatory eyes, only to be scared away by Rimuru's woo. It was truly strange that such a giant wolf, over 2 meters long, was scared off by Rimuru's fierce yet cute howling. Teresa discovered some strange phenomena. Rather than not encountering monsters, being scared away seemed more appropriate for this situation. In a large circular area centered around herself and Rimuru, there were no signs of monsters approaching. They seemed to be afraid of something. Wait, afraid of me and Rimuru? Probably, they felt some kind of aura. Rimuru gave an answer after hearing Teresa's confusion. Coordinator. Note: switched to magic sense perspective. Opening her eyes, surging magic was being released from her own body and the slime's body beside her. The purple-black magicules were extremely oppressive, even the magic sense vision faintly showed vibrations and static. Teresa blinked her bead-like eyes and floated onto the top of Rimuru's head. I think I understand why these monsters are afraid of us. Teresa sighed. A question mark appeared on Rimuru's forehead, and then he followed Teresa's suggestion and switched his perspective. Cold sweat seeped from his blue, transparent forehead. We're really lucky we haven't been discovered by any powerful beings in this forest. Teresa sighed as she struggled to suck the leaking magicules back into her body. Rimuru let out a confused sound. Look, wolves, birds, vines, any way you look at it, these monsters are just low-level mobs from the forest outskirts. Teresa's web novel-addicted brain controlled her mouth as she talked eloquently. So there must be boss-level monsters deep in the forest, like the sky cloud armor-eating phoenix, the ultimate electric bird beast, or the lightning-red sensing rabbit or something. Black lines appeared on Rimuru's forehead. There's no way the things you're describing would appear in an isekai-themed world. And besides, why have I never even heard of those names? Of course you haven't, because those were my Chunabu delusions from 9th grade. Teresa lifted her head with a bit of a Tsunere air. 3 question marks appeared above Rimuru's head. While the two of them were bickering, a monster squad of over 30 members pushed through the bushes and appeared before the 2 spheres. They glanced at the 2 spheres, seemingly unsure of their target, and scattered around to search for something. Teresa, floating in the air, was momentarily stunned. It's here, right? Those two unknown powerhouses have probably already left. The contents of the monsters, whispered discussions as they searched were clearly transmitted to Teresa's mind. These green-skinned, pointy-eared monsters were highly recognizable. Goblins. Teresa, who had only watched Goblin Slayer, naturally had no good feelings toward these monsters. Her thoughts stirred her magicules, and raging flames began to burn around her. The magicules absorbed into her body surged out, becoming increasingly violent. Dwang! The tattered, rusty swords in the hands of several goblins fell to the ground. Under the pressure of Teresa's violent magicules, the 30 monsters were teetering, several goblins even knelt down because they couldn't withstand the pressure. Ah! The goblin leader seemed to have bitten his tongue. Oh great powerhouse, we mean no offense, please calm your anger. The goblin leader propped his rusty sword against the ground, fearfully pleading for Teresa's mercy. Despite his fear and his legs trembling uncontrollably, he still stared fixedly at Teresa. It seemed they were an intelligent race, not the lewd, breeding-obsessed species from Goblin Slayer. She had thought a pack of hungry wolves was blocking the way, but after chambering around, she realized it was a group of puppies, the unweaned kind. Tisk. Realizing her behavior was a bit awkward, Teresa extinguished the flames and withdrew her magicules. She flicked her body in the air and floated back behind Rimuru. Rimuru, go. I'll leave it to you. Rimuru gave Teresa a sidelong glance, sighed helplessly, and hopped over to the lead goblin. Sorry. Her temper is a bit fiery, but she didn't really mean it. Hey, I'm a guy. An anger vein popped on Teresa's forehead. No, we wouldn't dare. You don't need to apologize to us. The lead goblin was somewhat submissive. So, can you tell me why you suddenly appeared before us? Rimuru asked, puzzled. It's like this, if you go further, you'll encounter our village. Because we sensed a powerful monster's presence, we ran out just in case, the goblin replied. Was it really because of me and Teresa? Then I'm sorry, we didn't do it on purpose. No, you don't need to apologize. It's just that we don't know what we did to provoke the wrath of that one. The goblin shuddered. If possible, we can change. Please ask that powerhouse not to take it to heart. Hey! Teresa, who had been eavesdropping with half an ear, got angry. Do I look like such a petty person? Dwang! 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 The sound of weapons being abandoned rang out. Several goblins threw down their weapons and knelt on the ground in fear and trepidation. Ah, oh powerhouse. Sorry for unintentionally offending you again, please calm your anger. The lead goblin endured his fear and bowed tremblingly toward Teresa. Teresa, I forgive you, you can get up. Teresa sighed and waved her hand. As if all her energy had been drained, she drifted down lightly onto Rimuru's head. Get up, she's forgiven you. Hearing Rimuru's words, Teresa took a bite of his head. Through the conversation with the goblins, it gradually evolved into going to their village to rest. Under Teresa's head-biting coercion, Rimuru agreed to the request to visit their village. Along the way, the goblins revealed a lot of information. For example, the god they worshipped disappeared a month ago. Also, because the god disappeared, the activities of monsters that had left this land began to become frequent again. And, the frequency of human adventurers entering and leaving the forest became increasingly high. Biting Rimuru's head, Teresa constantly thought about the details during the conversation between Rimuru and the goblins. The god they spoke of was probably Veldora. Veldora's existence could deter the monsters he had driven out. Without his deterrence, this land naturally lost its protection, and as for humans. It goes without saying what adventurers were after. Unknowingly, the slime wearing the Shy Ghost cosplay outfit was brought to this place that could roughly be called a village. The two were enshrined in the most luxurious building among these structures. Pop tilde, Teresa pulled her mouth off Rimuru's head and floated into the air. The thatched roof was dilapidated and full of gaps. The walls looked like they were just made of stacked wooden boards. In the corner of the wall, there even seemed to be a few red mushrooms with white spots. Can people really live here? Teresa poked Rimuru and asked. Probably. Rimuru was also shocked by this environment. Sorry to keep you waiting, honored guests. A shaky, auto-tuned sounding old voice came from outside the door. Teresa flew down from the air and landed beside Rimuru. An old goblin wearing a tattered robe slowly walked in, supported by the lead goblin from earlier. I'm very sorry that I cannot offer anything decent to entertain you. I am the chief of this village. After the old goblin finished speaking, 2 cups of something like tea were placed before the 2 spheres. The brown, transparent liquid emitted wisps of steam. It was a bit bitter, but surprisingly refreshing. Teresa expressed that she liked the taste of this tea very much. So, is there a reason you specifically brought us to your village? Rimuru ignored a certain silly ghost and looked at the old goblin. Rimuru's question hit the nail on the head. The chief's body trembled, then he seemed to make up his mind. He stole a glance at the two spheres and spoke. Actually, it's like this. Do you know that monsters have started moving frequently lately? The god we believe in has always protected this land from intrusion, but about a month ago. Get to the point. Teresa, having finished her tea, set the cup aside. The goblin next to you already said all that. Yes, I understand. The chief was clearly startled. There are about 100 wolf-type monsters, probably called the direwolf tribe, that have invaded the forest where we live, intending to seize the residency rights of this land. We have had several battles with those foreign monsters and suffered heavy casualties, even our only named warrior died under their claws. And now, those who can fight, including females, total only 60. A hopeless gap in combat power. Did that named warrior go out to fight even though he knew death was certain? Rimuru questioned. The chief looked somewhat sorrowful. This intelligence was what that warrior exchanged his life for. That warrior was my son, and his brother. Strong one, please help us. After listening to the village chief, Rimuru fell into silence and turned to look at Teresa. Teresa toyed with her cup, her gaze wandering back and forth between the kneeling village chief and the leader. The village chief also remained silent, quietly waiting for the two before him to make a decision. There seemed to be tears shimmering in the village chief's eyes. Did I see that wrong? You guys are monsters. Monsters that humans in the other world hate to the bone. How can you have emotions? But goblins with emotions, maybe they can be won over. As for the wolf species, if I use blazing flame, I should be able to take them out, right? Well, thinking of this, Teresa set down the cup in her hand and spoke. I can help you through this crisis, but I have one condition. A look of pleasant surprise appeared on the village chief's raised face. Thank you, strong one. Whatever your request is, we will fulfill it. Become my subordinates, Teresa stated her condition. Offer your loyalty to me. That is only natural. If you are willing to protect us, our entire tribe is willing to offer our loyalty to you. The village chief stood up excitedly. Hey, Teresa. Rimuru was a bit surprised by Teresa's choice, but when he saw the village chief placing all his hope on Teresa, he had no reason to refuse. Teresa gave Rimuru a confused look. As a Washop person, is there anything wrong with farming? No. Nothing's wrong. Rimuru wobbled. To farm, you need land, right? Yeah. To farm, you need manpower, right? Yeah. So there's no problem with me taking them in, right? No problem. Good, he agrees too. Teresa floated in front of the village chief. No more disagreements then, it's settled. Awu tilde tilde tilde. Just as Teresa was about to discuss the specific details of the village with the village chief, a wolf's howl suddenly came from outside the door. Against the setting sun in the west, a giant wolf stood on the mountainside, howling towards the sky. It's the direwolf tribe. We're all going to be eaten. We're dead. Run for your lives. The goblins clutched their heads and cried out in terror. So noisy. Flame gathered around Teresa and then transformed into explosion flame. Swoosh. While the goblins outside were scurrying in fear, a fireball pierced through the door curtain of the most luxurious building and slammed heavily into the rocks beneath the feet of the giant wolf that was howling. A woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Amidst the roar of the explosion, the wolf's howl turned into a scream of pain. Under the gaze of the goblins, that direwolf fell down. The fleeing and wailing goblins stopped in their tracks, staring blankly at the mountainside where lava was now flowing in the distance. Well, did I miss? Teresa curled her lip. It's fine now. All the elderly, weak, women, and children, go sleep. Teresa phased through the building and issued an order. Goblins with combat capability, come here, and remember, what the slime says next. Hey, Teresa. Oh my, I'm so tired. Teresa plopped onto the roof. Rimuru. Night fell. The leader of the direwolf tribe opened its eyes. Today was a full moon, perfect for battle. It slowly stood up and looked around arrogantly. The direwolf kin all held their breath and looked toward their leader. PFF'd. Suppressed laughter came from within the pack. Through the thought communication network, the direwolf leader found the individuals who were laughing and gave them a fierce glare. Licking the scabs formed after being scorched by lava and fire, its mood became increasingly brutal. Those fool goblins actually dared to ambush it. Tonight, it would definitely destroy that goblin village and step over their corpses to enter the Jura forest. Looking back at its tail, of which only half remained, 3 deep claw marks appeared in the ground beneath its front paws. Our tribe's claws can tear through any monster. Our tribe's sharp teeth can pierce through any armor. Awoo. The leader raised its head, revealing the scorched fur beneath its neck, and let out a roar. The moment for a great slaughter had arrived. Are they really coming? Teresa lay on top of Rimuru head, drowsy with sleep. Probably because she had spent so much time in the sun these days, looking at the starry sky, Teresa's biological clock was reacting. Lady Teresa, would you like to go back and rest? Note. The current time is exactly 2 a.m. I never even stayed up this late in university. Teresa tried hard to widen her bead-like eyes, looking towards the only main road leading to the village, and waved her small hand. No need, I can hold out. Under Rimuru's direction, the crude houses of the village had been completely dismantled and built into fences to fully surround the village. Rimuru's spider silk had increased the defensive strength of these fortifications by a level. At the same time, some clever goblins were sent out as scouts. Although most were injured, they still managed to bring back intelligence alive. They're here. The goblin leader held a bow and arrow, his face grave as he looked into the distance. Not far away, two small green lights appeared first, and then dense green spots of light emerged from the darkness. Awoo, under the moonlight, the direwolf leader stood proudly at the very front of the pack. You go or I go. Rimuru poked the half-asleep Teresa. tilde. Teresa slowly floated up from Rimuru's head, yawned, and stretched. I'll do it. Let me see. Teresa tried hard to open her eyes wide, staring at that proud leader. This was a pitch-black magic wolf with a deep scar over its left eye. A gray wolf and a white wolf followed behind it, likely its offspring or trusted subordinates, and behind them was an uncountable pack of wolves. 2 days of living here had improved Teresa's perception of these goblins. Well, it would be best if they could win this battle without losing a single person. Then, it's you, right? Teresa extended her right hand and pointed at the direwolf leader. Goodbye. Simulating the sound of a laser with her mouth, a beam of compressed explosion flame pierced through the direwolf leader's skull. The night breeze blew past. Thud. The direwolf leader fell gently onto the grass. The flesh around the wound was charred by the high temperature of the explosion flame, and not even a drop of blood flowed out. The magicules contained within the direwolf leader's corpse were drawn into Teresa's body under the guidance of Absorber. Note. Magicule analysis complete. Acquired extra skill. Thought communication. Boom. The compressed explosion flame hit the mountain behind, causing a huge explosion, and splashing lava landed behind the wolf pack. Submit or die. Teresa floated in the sky with narrowed eyes, flame appearing behind her at the right moment. Her translucent body shimmered with a golden luster under the firelight. The scene was deathly quiet, as if the previous struggle was just an illusion. The direwolves' gazes converged on Teresa. For a long time, the direwolves remained standing silently in place, neither attacking nor running, and certainly showing no signs of submission. Teresa sighed, and the temperature of the flame behind her rose rapidly. This pack of direwolves should be enough for the goblins to eat for a long time, right? At that very moment, the direwolves knelt down in unison. Teresa, these wolves. What do you plan to do with them? After dealing with the direwolf tribe's invasion, Teresa and Rimuru slept on mats made of animal hides under the protection of the goblins. Hand them over to the goblins, pair them up in groups of 2. The extra direwolves can be used for hunting or guarding the home. Before she could finish her sentence, Teresa's voice trailed off as she fell asleep. Rimuru pulled a loose piece of animal hide over Teresa. Looking around at the goblins who were gradually falling into a deep sleep, he fell into thought. That pack of direwolves obeyed Teresa's orders and lay quietly around the village on standby. There were 74 goblins capable of fighting now, their numbers not diminished by the battle. The direwolves had only lost their leader, leaving 95 of them, significantly outnumbering the goblins. Teresa's suggestion seems like a good idea, but who's there? While thinking, Rimuru suddenly sensed a hidden presence of magicules. Though it was only a fleeting sensation, that heavy and sharp aura was not weaker than his own. The gray and white wolves were also startled awake by the magicules at the same time. The 2 magic wolves stood up from the ground, their fur standing on end like steel needles as they stared toward the nearby forest. Swoosh. A dark shadow blurred through the trees. Splurt. Blood sprayed from the necks of several direwolves lying on the outer perimeter. Clack, clack, clack. The scent of blood spread, accompanied by an eerie sound. The direwolf tribe woke up under the influence of the bloody scent, but more direwolves fell under the attack of the unknown shadow. Swoosh, the shadow lunged toward the gray wolf. Bang! A water blade struck the shadow, but it produced a sound like hitting solid rock. Teresa, seemingly sensing the commotion, smacked her lips and rolled over. Rimuru, who had released the water blade to save the gray wolf, hopped off the hide mat and over the fence. He commanded the two wolves who were facing a formidable foe, lead the surviving direwolves inside. Remember to protect the goblins, I'll handle this guy. The gray wolf lowered its head slightly in a gesture of submission. The shadow, its strike having failed, vanished from Rimuru's field of vision again. Great sage, magic sense. Rimuru's expression grew increasingly solemn. His vision shifted. In a world filled with colorful magicules, a mass of purple-black mist was moving at high speed. Simultaneously, a significant amount of magicules seeped from the direwolf corpses, flowing toward the purple-black mist. Is its goal magicules? Rimuru split his body, devouring all the dead direwolf corpses, including the leaders. Analysis complete. Mimicry. Direwolf acquired. Acquired direwolf intrinsic skills. Keen smell, thought communication, and menace. Swoosh. Accompanied by a chilling wind, the purple-black mist aggregate appeared before Rimuru. The mist gradually dissipated, revealing the dark shadow's true form to Rimuru. White mist vented from its jagged, fanged maw. Its crimson eyes stared intently at the nearby slime, and traces of lava slowly flowed down the two sharp, curved horns atop its head. Massive wings spread from its back, stony bat wings covered in cracks. A gargoyle. Rimuru was somewhat puzzled. Great sage, analyze. Analysis failed. Target unknown. Note: target possesses partial demon race characteristics. Clack, clack, clack. The gargoyle opened its maw, letting out a disjointed roar that sounded like stones grinding together. A massive amount of magicules was released from its terrifying body. Great sage, analyze the target's weaknesses. This was perhaps the greatest crisis Rimuru had faced since his reincarnation. Analysis complete. Target possesses partial demon race characteristics. Locking onto target's magicule organ. On the gargoyle's chest, the great sage marked a diamond-shaped crystal. Got it. Clack. The gargoyle stopped testing him. Sharp claws extended from its hands, and it turned back into a dark shadow, charging toward Rimuru. So fast. Using sticky steel thread, Rimuru quickly shifted to the side, but the gargoyle immediately adjusted its direction. One blue and one black shadow began a pursuit within this relatively narrow forest. Analysis complete. Optimal footing marked. The forest was soon dyed in the silvery white of the moonlight. Clack. After a fruitless chase, the gargoyle stalled in midair. Giving up on Rimuru, it immediately charged toward the location of the goblin village. Thinking of going after them? Too bad, you won't get the chance. The slime stopped and stood on a tree branch. To his right was a fine thread shimmering silver in the moonlight. The gargoyle slammed into the silvery white spider silk at the edge of the forest. Ping tilde. The silver thread snapped. The spider silk and steel threads already set up in this area were instantly triggered. Countless silver threads lashed out from all parts of the forest, tightly binding the gargoyle. Boing, boing tilde. Rimuru hopped over to the front of the gargoyle. Slaughtering lives at will without saying a single word, you seem like a monster in the truest sense. So. The bound gargoyle's body flared with fire, and the smell of burnt silk filled the air. Rimuru whipped his body. The moving part stretched and transformed, and during the process, the body armor of an armor lizard covered the shifting mass. It pierced into the gargoyle's chest without resistance, destroying its magicule circuit. Clack, clack, clack. Letting out a final wretched cry, the crimson light in the gargoyle's eyes dimmed. Devour. Analysis failed. Unknown energy element. Analysis failed. Analysis failed. Skipping energy analysis. Analysis successful. Mimicry. Gargoyle acquired. Acquired gargoyle intrinsic skills. Body petrification and ultraspeed movement. The gargoyle's corpse decomposed into magicules within Rimuru's body. It's settled. Time to rest. Though puzzled by the energy the great sage couldn't analyze, he finished distributing potions to the injured direwolves. Lost in thought, he hopped back to the mat and squeezed into Teresa's bedding. The goblins, awakened by the battle, spontaneously began cleaning up the battlefield. The first ray of morning light passed through the forest and shone on Teresa's face. Good morning, Rimuru. Teresa yawned, tossed aside the animal hide, and floated up. Her keen sense of smell allowed her to detect a faint scent of blood in the air. What happened? Teresa was instantly wide awake. Of the nearly 100 direwolves, only 70-some remained. The gray wolf used thought communication to inform Teresa of what had happened last night. A gargoyle. Teresa floated toward the direction the direwolf indicated. Although the debris from the battle had been cleaned up by the goblins, some energy still lingered at the site of the fight. Teresa absorbed this trace of residual energy. The information analyzed by the coordinator, however, shocked her to the core. Note: analysis of energy failed. Target is not Magicules. Preliminary analysis confirms it is dark Magicules. Reanalyzing. Analysis failed. Reanalyzing. Analysis failed. Accessing partial data from conceptualizer. Analyzing. Analysis successful. Note: redefining dark Magicules as ether. Confirmation complete. Successfully acquired extra skills: ether perception, ether conversion, and ether absorption. The moment she acquired ether perception, Teresa caught the scent of a large amount of residual ether in the area. Ether. Is this a mirror world? Negative. Note: 250 years ago, a giant creature possessing ether was summoned by mistake. After its subjugation and death, it left behind energy crystals known as crystals. Under the coordinator's explanation, Teresa understood the source of ether in this world. After the death of the mistakenly summoned primal, it transformed into crystals and released a vast amount of ether. The highly invasive primal ether quickly spread throughout the entire world. However, another form of life energy already existed in this world: Magicules. Under the influence of Magicules, the erosion of the primal ether was mitigated. As a life energy on the same level as Magicules, the Magicules could not completely eliminate or analyze the ether. Over the long passage of time, the Magicules stripped away the invasiveness granted by the primal, and the ether was converted back into the 6 elemental attributes of fire, wind, lightning, water, ice, and earth, merging into this world. It became another form of life energy that existed in parallel with the world's Magicules. However, due to the blockade of Magicules, the things of this world could not draw upon ether for their own use. Creatures that forcibly inhaled ether turned into monsters due to the conflict between ether and Magicules. Consequently, scholars named ether dark Magicules, and magic that drew upon ether was named dark magic, and sealed with the label forbidden. So what attacked the direwolves yesterday was an ether creature. Teresa felt a bit irritable. Magicules, ether, dark magic. It seems the waters of this world are much deeper than I imagined. Well, whatever. If she couldn't figure it out, she wouldn't think about it. After absorbing all the residual ether, Teresa floated leisurely back to the village. I'll deal with these goblins and direwolves first before talking about anything else. It was no longer early, and the goblins were basically all awake. Rimuru was sitting on a small tree stump in the village. The village chief and the goblin leader were attending to him, seemingly discussing something. Good morning, Lady Teresa. The goblin leader noticed Teresa's arrival. Ah, morning, Teresa responded to the greeting and floated toward Rimuru's head. Rimuru, morning. Ah, good morning, Teresa. Rimuru nodded toward Teresa. We can begin now. Rimuru, with Teresa on his head, gave instructions to the goblin leader. Yes. The goblin leader was full of energy. Under the goblin leader's arrangement, the monsters quickly lined up. The village chief stood shakily beside the 2 spheres, leaning on his cane, seemingly intending to look after their daily needs. The non-combatant group stood around watching. The ground was empty, making them stand out exceptionally well. After the attack last night, the direwolf tribe had lost more than 10 members. Their current numbers were roughly equal to the number of goblins. Teresa's fantasy of herding wolves was shattered. The direwolf tribe also gathered in the clearing following the instructions from Teresa's thought communication. Ahem, Rimuru shook Teresa on top of his head. Everyone, please listen to me. Rimuru poked the white sphere on his head with some doubt. Is it really feasible to have them pair up in groups of 2? Do you have a better idea? Teresa slapped Rimuru's hand away. Ahem, everyone. From now on, please live together in pairs. Rimuru finally decided to let them be responsible for one another. After Rimuru finished speaking, the monsters below the stump looked at the 2 spheres quietly, waiting for further instructions. There was no extreme reaction from the crowd. It seemed there would be no problem. Rimuru nodded in satisfaction. Lord Rimuru, if I may ask, what does pairing up mean? After a while, the village chief goblin finally broke the silence. A layer of black lines spread across Rimuru's face. It means 2 in a group, Teresa explained. The direwolves paired with the male goblins will be responsible for hunting to ensure the village has meat, while also ensuring the village's safety. The female goblins will be responsible for gathering vegetables, mushrooms, and fruit, and the direwolves paired with them will be responsible for ensuring their safety. Do you understand? As soon as she finished speaking, the adjacent goblins and direwolves began looking at each other. The atmosphere seems good. Yeah, right. From today on, you must assist each other and get along peacefully, do you hear me? Rimuru added. Yes. The monster's response was enthusiastic. By the way, what are all your names? Teresa, lying on Rimuru's head, looked at the village chief. Normally, monsters do not have names, the village chief explained. Because we can communicate even without names. Is that so? Rimuru shook his body. But having names would be more convenient. So, I'd like to give you names, if that's okay. Before Rimuru's voice could fade, the surroundings suddenly became noisy. Everyone's gaze focused on him at once, even the non-combatant goblins watching from the side were no exception. Names. Is that really alright? The village chief looked somewhat panicked. Teresa was lifted up by a question mark that popped out of Rimuru. The monsters below had already reached a boiling point of excitement. Why are they so excited about getting names? Rimuru was a bit speechless. Teresa floated down from Rimuru's question mark. Do you remember what Veldora said about the difference between named monsters and ordinary monsters? Of course, Rimuru finally realized and looked at the incredibly excited monsters below. It's just giving names, it shouldn't be that big of a deal, right? Didn't we give Veldora a name too? True. Teresa nodded and shouted to the crowd of monsters, everyone. Line up in order from tallest to shortest. The monsters quickly formed a line. Then let's start with the village chief. Standing in front of Rimuru was the village chief. What was the name of your son who passed away? Rimuru received the answer, Rigurd. Well, how about you be called Rigurd? Thank you, Rigurd is so grateful. The village chief's eyes welled up with tears of excitement. Then, you will inherit your brother's name, Rigurd. Teresa looked at the goblin leader standing before her. Yes. The leader was clearly very happy as well. Your name is Gobta. How do you feel about banana? Never mind, let's go with Goba instead. Next. Your name is Gobchi. Gobpo, next. Gobchi. Gobchi, next. Gobte. Gobd, next. Lady Teresa, Lord Rimuru, thank you very much for naming us. Although you both possess great magic power, is it really okay to bestow so many names at once? It should be fine, right? Rimuru was a bit puzzled by Rigurd's words. Teresa thought of the fleeting sensation of dizziness and weakness that appeared just now when she started naming. She said with some uncertainty, does naming consume magicals? Yes. Rigurd nodded. So, would you two lords like to rest? Next, Rimuru turned to look at a goblin girl. Your name is Haruna. It's fine. Looking at the hesitant Rigurd, Teresa floated over and patted his shoulder, feeling that the magicals in her body hadn't been consumed much. Well, you shall be named Gatling. Turning around, she faced a dark green-skinned goblin. Teresa made a small joke. After the two of them had finished naming the goblins in an extremely casual manner, it was time to name the direwolf tribe. The new leader of the direwolf tribe was the son of the former leader, specifically, the exceptionally handsome gray wolf standing before Rimuru. Looking closely, there was even a star on top of his head. Should I call him Jotaro? He looked even more majestic and powerful than his father, though Teresa once thought it was simply because his fur had grown longer. Standing before Teresa was the daughter of the former leader, a white wolf with silky fur and a graceful figure. Despite having killed her father, she didn't seem to show any hatred toward me. I need to give her a good name. Wolf, are there any myths where wolves are named? Kui Mu Lang. No, that doesn't suit a girl. Norse. Fenrir. That sounds like a male name. Suddenly, Teresa noticed a full moon containing a crescent on the white wolf's head. She hadn't seen it until now because of the lighting. Greek. White wolf. Moon, Artemis. No, too long. Ether. The 12 gods of Eorzea. Got it. The goddess of Eorzea who governs the twin moons and compassion, Menfina. Teresa's eyes lit up as she looked at the white wolf before her. Then, I shall name you, Menfina. How does that sound? What's happening? Just after Teresa finished naming the white wolf, more than half of the energy in her body suddenly vanished, and the feeling of dizziness and weakness intensified. Teresa fell from the air. Lady Teresa. A pleasant young girl's voice called out. A body covered in soft fur caught Teresa and carefully handed her over to the goblins who were rushing forward in a panic. Note. Internal magicals and ether levels have fallen below a certain threshold. Entering sleep mode. Full recovery estimated in 3 days. Did naming consume too many magicals? Teresa's vision was swallowed by darkness. She couldn't move, couldn't speak, and couldn't sense her surroundings, yet she remained conscious. In the long darkness, Teresa clearly felt two types of energy continuously pouring into her body. One energy was soft and flexible, that must be Magicul's. The other energy changed oddly between stagnation and activity. Astral and umbral polarities, is it ether? During her sleep, Teresa analyzed the difference between Magicul's and ether in detail. While Magicul's were soft and flexible, the complex and ever-changing ether was clearly more suitable for constructing magic. Compared to Magicule-based magic, Conceptualizer seemed more like a unique skill specifically designed for conceptualizing ether magic. Teresa spent 3 days conceptualizing ether magic in her mind. Wahoo! Teresa woke up from her sleep, feeling the abundant Magicules and ether within her. Wait! Rimuru! The small blue ball bouncing beside her was also shouting excitedly. Lord Rimuru, Lady Teresa, you're awake. Good morning. The one speaking was. Wobble. Boing. Rimuru, am I still dreaming? Teresa looked at the beautiful girl with light green skin in front of her with a dazed expression. I don't know, Rimuru replied, emphasizing every word. It seems the two lords have fully recovered. I'll go call village chief Reborn right away. The beautiful girl said as she walked toward the door. Lord Rimuru. Lady Teresa. Are you awake? A rough and boisterous shout came from outside. A massive, green-skinned muscular man with a bare chest burst through the wooden door, his tall figure blocking the sunlight streaming in. Who the hell are you? Teresa blurted out in shock, flames swirling around her. Lady Teresa, calm down. It's me, Reborn. Reborn. Teresa thought back to the trembling old village chief from yesterday, then looked at the naked green muscle man posing in front of her. Don't you dare lie to me, you perverted naked man. Die. The flames condensed into a fire spear. Lady Teresa. It's because you bestowed names upon us that we've undergone such a change. The hulking man explained hurriedly. Once one becomes a named monster, it means they have become a higher level monster, and their life essence undergoes an evolution. Wait, did we give names to the entire village yesterday? Teresa couldn't quite process it. To be precise, it was 3 days ago, as the two lords have been unconscious for 3 days, Reborn added. Bang! 2 direwolves burst through the flimsy wooden door of the building. The direwolf named Ranga by Rimuru now had deep ink blue fur, and the black star on his forehead had grown a sharp spike. His body length now exceeded 5 meters, making him even more robust than his late father. The white fur on the white wolf named Menfina by Teresa had become even softer, faintly emitting a gentle luster like moonlight. The moon-shaped pattern on her forehead had become very distinct. Compared to her brother's robust build, she appeared somewhat petite. I see. Rimuru nodded to show his understanding, glancing at the house that had become shaky because of the two wolves rushing in. Let's go outside first. I'll analyze our future plans. Teresa flew up from Rimuru's head and landed on top of Menfina's head. New mount. Get. What met their eyes was a mountain of food, but blood-stained meat and water-filled fruits made up the majority. Both had a very obvious drawback, they were difficult to preserve. It seemed these monsters had strictly followed the instructions Rimuru had issued. The evolution of these monsters had occurred during the 3 days while Teresa and Rimuru's magic was depleted. According to Reborn, their evolution took only 1 day. After the evolution ended, they planned to hold a gathering for all members to celebrate the successful evolution and hold a victory feast. However, because the two most deserving of celebration were unconscious due to magic depletion, and they couldn't obtain permission, they remembered Rimuru's instructions. Divided into 2 groups, the monsters had hunted and gathered a large amount of food in a short period of time. Furthermore, it seemed the members of the same group had all evolved the skill thought communication, allowing them to communicate with each other. Goblin wolf riders, that sounds quite powerful. However, because it was summer, some of the perishable food had already begun to show signs of rotting. Reborn, can you take charge of the gathering tonight? Rimuru had clearly noticed the food's shelf life and asked. Of course, you mean. Reborn's eyes widened. Yeah, let's try to finish off the perishable food tonight. Yes. The changes are really huge. Teresa, lying atop Menfina's head, carefully scrutinized the monsters that had evolved. The goblins' eyes, once murky, had become agile and radiated the light of intelligence. As for their physique, they no longer resembled those small, green imps from before. The male goblins looked more like battle-hardened adventurers, while the female goblins. Aside from the color of their skin, they had grown into forms that would perfectly cater to a certain demographic's tastes. The direwolves had undergone an equally incredible evolution. As members of the direwolf tribe who share a collective consciousness, they received names from the same source, Rimuru and Teresa, almost simultaneously. Through various coincidences, Ranga, representing the thunderstorm, and Mindfina, representing the icy moon, fused together, causing the direwolf tribe to evolve into a race known as the Lunate Tempest Wolf tribe. The male lunate wolves gained massive, robust bodies and an affinity for lightning attribute magicules, with fur as black as ink. The female lunate wolves gained agile, streamlined bodies and an affinity for ice attribute magicules, with fur as white as snow. Moreover, according to Mindfina below, they had heard the voice of the world. Everyone who evolved heard it. Although 2 days had passed for her to calm down, Mindfina was still very excited when she said this. It seemed the voice of the world was not a common occurrence. Teresa's 2 short little hands aimlessly petted the big white dog beneath her, her thoughts already drifting away. Speaking of which, it seemed quite easy for her and Rimuru to hear the voice of the world. While Teresa was petting the dog, Rimuru was feeling distressed. You were the one who decided to take them in, so why am I the one solving all these problems? Rimuru puffed up in frustration. Even a hands-off manager shouldn't be this hands-off. The slime's body seemed to have expanded significantly in size. Lord Rimuru. Rigurd looked a bit confused seeing Rimuru's agitation. I'm fine, Rimuru said, shaking his head. Due to the evolution, these female goblins had become quite curvaceous, yet they only used a single scrap of cloth to cover their vital parts. Sigh tilde. Rimuru let out a sigh. To settle food, clothing, and shelter, the most important thing was probably clothing. Having finished petting the dog, Teresa floated up from the top of Mindfina's head with satisfaction. It had to be said, the fur was smooth and soft, and it felt excellent to the touch. Glancing at Rimuru, who was sitting on a tree stump lost in thought, Teresa clicked her tongue and slowly floated toward the clearing piled high with food. Master, are you hungry? A pleasant female voice came through the thought communication. Teresa shook her head and slowly came to a stop in front of the food pile. Setting aside the meat, the gathered food consisted mostly of fruits, with a small portion of root vegetables like potatoes. At the very bottom, she also found several large-leafed plants. However, among the many types of gathered food, there were no grains. Grains for nourishment, fruits for support, livestock for benefit, and vegetables for fulfillment. Teresa took a bite of a bright red fruit in her hand, and an intense sourness flooded the tip of her tongue. The little white ball trembled as if struck by an electric shock, and the fruit she had bitten into fell to the ground. It took quite a while for her to get used to the sour sensation. Note: Roland berry, a sour fruit native to the Jura Tempest forest. Coordinator: analyze these foods. Note: fairy plum, a bitter fruit native to the Jura Tempest forest. Note: dragon breath pepper, the fruit of a small plant native to the Jura Tempest forest. It has a pungent and spicy aroma and can be used as a seasoning or spice after processing. Note: black fruit. Teresa sighed and landed back on top of Mindfina's head. According to the coordinator's analysis, these foods could only provide the most basic survival energy for the evolved goblins, and they tasted terrible. Relying on these forest fruits, if an emergency occurred, this group of goblins would have no strength to resist at all. Farming had to be started as soon as possible. Logistics are always the top priority. A stable and worry-free food supply is the prerequisite for moving from mere survival to actual living. Food. More suitable food must be found, preferably cereal crops. In order to maintain the basic substances or nutrition for the monsters' life activities, grains had to be found. Lady Teresa, so you're here. You must be hungry too. The gathering is about to begin, please take your seat. This gathering, organized by Rigurd, lasted until late at night. Early the next morning, Rimuru gathered everyone together and spoke about what he considered the most important matter at hand: rules. Well, since Rimuru was Japanese, things like rules were etched into his soul. Is everyone here? Well then, I'm going to set 3 simple rules. Standing on the tree stump, Rimuru scanned the goblins. There are 3 rules in total, and I hope everyone will at least abide by these 3. No attacking humans. No internal fighting. No looking down on other races. These were the 3 rules Rimuru established. Is he still thinking from a human perspective even now? Teresa, who was being pressed down by Mindfina, shook her head. Master. Sensing Teresa's unease, Mindfina raised her head. Do you also not understand Lord Rimuru's 3 rules? Of course not, I understand his thinking, Teresa explained. Mindfina. Teresa's gaze shifted to Rimuru, who was currently explaining to the goblins why they shouldn't attack humans. The reason is simple. I like humans. Rimuru's voice drifted over. I am here, Mindfina's voice responded in Teresa's mind. I need your Lunate Wolf tribe to follow my rule, Teresa paused. There is only one. Any creature that endangers the lives of the monsters directly under me and Rimuru, meaning you, regardless of race, is to be considered an enemy. If you are capable of annihilating them, then annihilate them. Including humans. Mindfina asked in confusion. Yes, Teresa's voice was resolute. Including humans. You are the final line of defense for our family. Humans are complex creatures, Teresa explained. Even if they are smiling and chatting with you, the moment you turn your back, they might thrust a weapon into your body. Being friendly is fine, but you must remain vigilant. You don't have to follow Rimuru's first rule. Of course, everything should prioritize your own safety. If the difference in strength is too great, escape as quickly as possible. Staying alive is the most important thing. After a long while, Mindfina finished communicating through the Lunate Tempest Wolf Tribe's thought communication network before answering Teresa's requirement. Master, I understand. We, the Lunate Wolf Tribe, will abide by your rule and will do our utmost to protect the people of this family until the last Lunate Tempest Wolf falls in battle. I object. Looking into Mindfina's clear green eyes, Teresa's body went limp, and she slumped into her embrace, waving her short little hands helplessly. Whatever, do as you wish, but leave some pups behind. Jerky, 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 or jerky. Rimuru rummaged through the backpack Rigard had prepared for him and clicked his tongue. Can't you prepare some other food? Lord Rimuru. Rigard felt a bit flustered. Is there any other food easier to preserve than jerky? Teresa rolled her eyes at Rimuru and used psychokinesis to tie the backpack shut before dropping it on Rimuru's head. The heavy backpack sank into Rimuru's slime body. Rimuru shook his body and, after a long while, squeezed out an, After establishing the collective rules last night, Rimuru and Teresa discussed and assigned tasks to the monsters under their command. Then, Rigard brought up the matter of the dwarf kingdom, Dworgen. The dwarf race, known for their mastery of forging in various legends and myths, made Rimuru incredibly excited. After all, the problem of clothing and housing for the monsters, which had troubled him the most, had finally found an easy solution. Therefore, Rimuru decided to set off for the dwarf kingdom the next day. Teresa worked overtime using blazing flame to roast the leftover meat from the party into jerky, sorted them, and handed them to Rigard. Rigard also carefully prepared the backpack for Rimuru. As noon approached, the personnel for the trip to Dworgen were finalized. Rigyur, 2 other goblins, and Gobta, who claimed to have been to Dworgen before, would accompany him. Speaking of which, Teresa, aren't you going? These are dwarves. Rimuru was a bit puzzled that Teresa wasn't in the traveling party. Teresa shrugged and didn't explain anything to Rimuru. After a brief farewell, Teresa watched Rimuru and the others depart. She chuckled and turned to look at the pure white magic wolf lying beside her. Mindfina, we should get ready too, Teresa instructed. Yes, my master, Mindfina's crisp female voice resonated in Teresa's mind. Lady Teresa. Rigard looked at Teresa in confusion. I'm going out for a few days. While Rimuru and I are away, I'm leaving the village to you. You can handle it, right? Teresa floated to the top of Mindfina's head and spoke to Rigard. Please rest assured, leave it to me. Rigard struck a few poses and then asked, but, do you have some important business for going out? Do you need anyone to accompany you? Just satisfying some essential survival needs, Teresa winked, not giving him the reason. As for help, give me a few clever ones. Haruna, and Gatling, you two come with me. The 2 goblins named by Teresa stepped out and walked to Mindfina's side. I understand. Rigard nimbly piled a bag of jerky onto Mindfina's back. Please take this food with you. Have a safe journey. Touching the rough yet sturdy backpack in her hand, a smile appeared on the corner of Teresa's mouth. Yeah, don't worry. I'll be counting on you for the next few days. Having entrusted all matters to Rigard, Teresa took her 2 followers and dashed toward the Emeld River. Stopping and starting along the way, 2 days passed just like that. Haruna and Gatling also figured out Teresa's purpose for bringing them out. Lady Teresa, is this also something edible? Haruna asked curiously, pointing to the plant root in Teresa's arms. This was a type of food used as a staple by the humans of this world, which the coordinator had searched out, gangshu. This tuber plant had very simple growth requirements. As long as there was soil, sunlight, and water, a large amount of food could be harvested in just 1 short month. After peeling off the rough skin of the gangshu, Teresa took a bite of the snowy white flesh. It was crunchy when chewed and had a faint bitter taste. This is probably our greatest harvest in all these days. Teresa spat out the gangshu residue in her mouth. Haruna blinked in confusion. Well, it's a bit complicated to explain. Teresa didn't know how to explain it to this innocent little girl, so she skipped the topic. You just need to know that we have a more abundant food source now. Haruna nodded, seemingly understanding but not quite. It's getting late. Shall we make something to eat first? Teresa floated down from Mindfina's head. An iron pot was quickly generated in Teresa's hands. With a clang, Teresa threw the iron pot onto the ground. Using psychokinesis to hold the iron pot, the scorching blazing flame burned the bottom of the pot. Smells so good. Gatling lay by the side of the pot, his nostrils twitching, staring longingly at the steaming iron pot. The color looks good. Teresa used psychokinesis to open the lid. The jerky, cut into small pieces, had reabsorbed water and expanded back into meat chunks, tumbling in the broth. It's ready, Lady Teresa. Haruna handed over a tray of washed and peeled red fruits cut into small pieces. Sparkling tomato, a red fruit vegetable from the great forest. Almost done. After sprinkling some seasoning, Teresa tasted the broth and nodded in satisfaction. She poured the tomatoes into the pot, followed by the already prepared gangshu. The blazing flame flickering around the pot gradually diminished, and Teresa replaced the lid. After an unknown amount of time, a rich aroma permeated from the pot. Seemingly at the perfect moment, Teresa lifted the lid. The broth had thickened due to the gangshu, and the meat chunks bounced slightly in the pot. The meat chunks seemed to have a wonderful reaction with the gangshu. The long cooking time of the gangshu made the meat chunks translucent, and the juice from the sparkling tomatoes dyed the delicacy in the pot a bright red. The ruddy and translucent meat chunks kept leaping in the thick gravy, with soft, fragmented gangshu clinging to them. Something is still missing. Teresa rubbed her chin. Right. A touch of green appeared in her small hand. Emerald green chopped green onions were sprinkled by Teresa. The verdant onion leaves dotted the thick red broth, and accompanied by the breathtaking aroma of meat, Teresa nodded in satisfaction. Haruna and Gatling were each snuggling with their respective wolves, using spoons created by the conceptualizer to scoop food and feed them. Is it good? Feeding the meat stew into Mindfina's wolf mouth, Teresa looked at her with anticipation. Delicious. Mindfina's sweet voice came through the thought link. Teresa nodded in satisfaction. Rustle, rustle. A slight sound came from the surrounding woods. Mindfina alertly looked toward the source of the sound. A blue-haired girl with a small, budding horn on her head hid behind the bushes, timidly watching the group feasting. Teresa blinked her bead-like eyes, looked at the remaining meat stew in the pot, and called out to the girl, "Want to eat together?" Note. Analysis complete. Target is an ogre cub. Sister. An urgent call rang out from the woods behind, followed by a fair, delicate little hand blocking the path of the blue-haired girl. A pink-haired girl pulled the blue-haired girl behind her, shielding her as she stared warily at the group of monsters. Goblins, and direwolves. A clear, cold voice escaped the girl's lips. The single horn amidst her pink hair shimmered with a faint light, and a massive amount of magicule surged from her petite body. A gentle breeze blew from the forest, showing faint signs of an impending storm. This is not your territory. Oh. Teresa looked at the two ogre girls with great interest. The magicule fluctuations emanating from the pink-haired girl were immense, appearing to reach a level of pressure comparable to the evolved Mindfina. Glancing at Haruna, who was trembling from the opponent's magicules, Teresa released her own magicules, crushing the pink-haired girl's pressure while simultaneously bearing down on her. Vast, heavy, and frenzied. Under the full weight of Teresa's magicule pressure, the pink-haired girl's body shook uncontrollably. The enemies in her vision began to blur into afterimages, and a wave of darkness threatened to cloud her consciousness. Just as she felt she could no longer hold on, Teresa withdrew her magicules. Relieved of the burden, the girl stumbled and fell to the ground. The blue-haired girl standing behind her rushed forward to support her. Sister. The blue-haired girl's soft, worried voice reached her ears. I'm fine. Sitting on the ground in a sprawl, the girl shook her dizzy head. A faint smile tugged at the corners of her mouth as she reached out a trembling hand to stroke her sister's head. Don't worry. A pink-haired ogre sister and a blue-haired ogre sister, this peculiar combination reminded Teresa of an anime she had watched in her previous life. She blinked and manifested two bowls out of thin air. Yo, girls, are you hungry? Want a bowl? Two bowls filled to the brim with food floated in Teresa's hands, while an expectant expression appeared on the little white ball's face. Gurgled tilde, the blue-haired sister's chubby little face turned bright red as her stomach growled. I'm sorry, I was being impulsive. Having recovered somewhat, the pink-haired girl walked up to Teresa and bowed deeply with an embarrassed look. My sister went missing, and I was so worried, so. Teresa waved her hand dismissively as the bowls of food floated toward the girls, indicating she didn't mind. After a moment of silence, the pink-haired girl took the floating bowl and whispered her thanks. Seeing the happy smiles on the two girls' faces made Teresa feel that her first meal made using her abilities after reincarnating into this world was a success. What? Didn't Mindfina say it was delicious? Can a dog's sense of taste really be compared to a human's? Thank you for the meal, Tilda. The pink-haired girl set down the empty bowl and thanked Teresa once more. It's so late, and you're still out. Teresa searched for the right word, playing. We were looking for food. The blue-haired girl explained. Teresa nodded perfunctorily, pretty much the same thing. The blue-haired girl was clearly indignant, but she was pressed down by her pink-haired sister's apologetic smile. Looking for food, huh? Teresa pulled a wooden board and a carving knife from the backpack Mindfina was carrying. By the way, have you ever noticed these kinds of foods? The pink-haired girl took the wooden board Teresa handed over and examined it carefully. 3 types of plants were carved onto the board, vaguely resembling wheat, rice, and soybeans. The blue-haired girl tapped her lip. I haven't seen the last one, but the first 2 seem to be grown in our village. Really? Teresa got excited. Could you take me to see your village? If you don't mind how dilapidated our village is. The pink-haired girl blinked. I don't mind. Teresa waved her hand, and the stacked cooking utensils quickly dissipated. She tugged on Mindfina's ear. Nana-chan, let's go. Girls, lead the way. Hearing Teresa's command, Mindfina flicked her ears and finally pulled her gaze away from the nearby bushes. Yes, please come this way. Wow, I really missed our village. The blue slime sat on top of Ranga's head, sighing with emotion as he looked at the village fence visible in the distance. Even though he had been gone for less than 2 weeks, he couldn't wait to see those cute goblins and the big doggies. Compared to when they left, simple tents had been set up in the village for normal rest. In the center of the village, there were traces of a campfire with a huge iron pot perched on top of it. It must be a masterpiece of Teresa's conceptualizer. They used to only know how to roast, but have they finally learned how to boil? That's a lot of progress. There were no signs of the village being attacked by other monsters. Rimuru nodded in satisfaction. It seemed Teresa was somewhat useful after all. As soon as they entered the village, Rimuru's group was spotted by the hobgoblins, who came out to welcome them with thunderous cheers. Rimuru looked left and right but didn't see that noisy little white ball, which made him a bit curious. What? Hearing Rigurd's answer, Rimuru's eyes widened into 2 circles. You're saying Teresa left right after I did and hasn't come back yet? That is correct, Lord Rimuru. Rigurd nodded. Rimuru sighed. Fine, let me introduce these dwarves to you first. Lord Rimuru, there's one more thing. Rigurd looked troubled. What is it? Rimuru's heart skipped a beat. He looked around and called on the great sage to tally the number of monsters. Could it be? Answer. The current locations of the named individuals, Haruna and Gatling, are unknown. Where are Haruna and Gatling? Rimuru grew anxious. He wouldn't allow anyone in the village he had just established 2 weeks ago to be bullied. Did someone attack? No, it's not what you think. Rigurd waved his hands hurriedly. It's like this. Some guests have come looking for you. Rimuru stopped flailing, looking slightly dazed. Anyway, please come with me first. Rigurd looked apprehensive. Oh, okay. Rimuru hopped down from Ranga's head and turned to give instructions. Rigur, help Kaijin and the others arrange their lodging first, then show them around the village. I'll be back in a bit. Yes. Rigur nodded. Rimuru followed Rigurd to a large, newly erected tent used as a reception room. Who could it be? With doubt in his heart, Rimuru stepped into the tent. The scene before him gave him quite a fright. Meeting your honor for the first time, great strong one, please listen to our wishes. Several goblins, looking quite formal, knelt on the ground along with the guard goblins beside them. Rimuru was taken aback. Are they talking to me? Rimuru poked Rigurd, who was holding him. Without a doubt, yes. Rigurd nodded. Rimuru calmed his emotions. Although he didn't know what was happening, he decided to hear what they had to say. Go ahead and speak. Yes. We are extremely grateful. We wish to follow you and become your subordinates. One goblin spoke as the representative, and the goblins surrounding him seemed to have reached a consensus, nodding one after another. Please grant us your grace. The goblins prostrated themselves in unison, bowing deeply, their eyes filled with hope as they gazed at Rimuru. Bathed in the gazes of the goblins, Rimuru felt a bit at a loss. The village was currently in the reconstruction phase. Letting these unidentified monsters into the village was clearly not a wise choice. However, it seemed that the village would need to expand its territory after reconstruction was complete. Rather than fighting with the monsters in this area later, wouldn't it be better to absorb them now? Sigh tilde tilde. Thinking of this, Rimuru couldn't help but sigh. The village's strongest combatant was currently away, and he didn't even have anyone to consult with. Lord Rimuru, Haruna and the others are back. Rigier's cheerful voice came from outside the tent. I'll have to consider this matter further. You all, those who are willing to stay here for a few days can stay. Rimuru jumped out of Rigurd's arms and bounced toward the outside. Haruna and Gatling returned alongside several direwolves carrying bulging, large bags. The plastic-like snakeskin bags were likely a masterpiece of Teresa's creation. The playful little white ball was not found among the group of monsters, which made Rimuru a bit confused. Where's Teresa? Didn't she come back with you? Lord Rimuru, these are the items Lord Teresa entrusted us to bring back. As for Lord Teresa, how should I put it? Haruna held a large snakeskin bag, thinking about her wording. Master accepted a request from the ogre village to investigate the source of strange magicules around their village in exchange for these food seeds. Mindfina communicated with Rimuru using thought communication. Using the psychokinesis inherited from Teresa, Mindfina placed the bulging snakeskin bags from the direwolves' backs onto the ground. A request. Rimuru frowned. There won't be any danger, will there? I originally wanted to follow Master, but Master said these seeds were more important and sent me back to protect them. Mindfina twitched her ears, her mood low. Don't worry, Teresa is very strong. Rimuru comforted her, then hopped in front of the snakeskin bags and opened one. The wheat grains looked dazzling under the sunlight. It's wheat. Rimuru was shocked, then quickly opened the other bags. Rice, sweet potatoes, tomatoes. Setting tomatoes aside for a moment, starchy foods like wheat, rice, sweet potatoes, and potatoes were exactly what the village needed most right now. It seems Teresa is also very invested in this village. Rimuru's original thought that Teresa was just a hands-off manager was shattered. These crops need people to plant them, and our village only has about 60 goblins capable of labor. The workforce is far from enough. Wait. Just as Rimuru was worrying about the labor force, he suddenly remembered the group of goblins he had sent back to wait for notice. Isn't a ready-made labor force right here in our village? Rimuru's sudden bounce gave Mindfina a start. Lord Rimuru. Mindfina was a bit confused. I'm fine. Rimuru shook his head and quickly hopped toward the tent where the goblin chiefs were. Hey. Rimuru stood at the entrance of the tent. The goblins inside looked at each other, waiting for Rimuru's reply. I've decided to take you in. Rimuru gave his answer. The tent was silent for a moment, then instantly became lively. However, you'd better not think about betraying us, otherwise, I will kill you all. Rimuru said the words he didn't voice in his heart. Thank you, great strong one, we will offer our loyalty. After bidding farewell to Rimuru, these goblins returned to the village and reported the situation to their village members. Over the next few days, goblins arrived at Rimuru's village one after another. Meanwhile, Teresa seemed to have evaporated into thin air, with not a single trace of news. The surroundings of the village were crowded with dense groups of goblins. While the labor shortage problem was solved, a new issue arose, the goblins' housing. Nearly 500 goblins from 4 villages had joined, causing the village's scale to expand rapidly. However, this goblin village was clearly no longer suitable for such a large family to survive in. Therefore, Rimuru decided to move. Since the village hadn't been reconstructed yet, the workload for moving now would be much lighter. After making the decision, Rimuru stayed in the tent and used Great Sage's map recording function to start confirming a location. Geographically, an open area near a water source suitable for farming was the most appropriate. Eliminating the maps simulated by Great Sage one by one, the only one left was the plains area near the cave they had first left. What? Rigurd was greatly shocked upon hearing the news. Lord Rimuru, please reconsider. That area is a forbidden zone. Unlike the forest, the interior of the cave is the dwelling place of many powerful monsters. It's fine, Rimuru waved it off, we used to live in the cave. Rigurd blinked his barely visible eyes. What did you say? Teresa and I were born over there, so it's normal to live there. Rimuru tilted his head. As expected of the lords. Rigurd's face was full of admiration. Alright, get ready. Is there still no news from Teresa? Rigurd shook his head. We have searched the nearby areas, but still haven't found any trace of Lord Teresa. Leave a team here to wait for Teresa. I think she should be coming back soon, so she doesn't miss us when she returns. Rimuru instructed. Yes. The goblins were very efficient and quickly packed everything up, likely thanks to having very few belongings. The candidates to stay behind and wait for Teresa were decided, an 8-man goblin squad led by Rigyr and their direwolf partners. Mindfina. What about you? Rimuru, sitting on Ranga's head, looked at the white wolf lying on a rock nearby. I plan to stay here and wait for Master to return, and protect the goblins staying behind while I'm at it. Okay. Rimuru nodded, thanks for your hard work. I'll send people to deliver food on time. Thank you, Lord Rimuru. The little white ball floated beside a group of ogre warriors wearing armor. The ogre warriors' marching speed grew slower as the surrounding trees became more lush and the light grew dimmer. Lord Teresa, ahead is the forest infected by the strange magicules. The ogre warrior standing at the front stopped. The woods ahead were even more eerie, and yet the pitch-black forest vaguely emitted a faint blue glow. Boom. A storm mixed with faint blue energy came from the woods. The feeling of this energy was ether. I'm sorry, Lady Teresa, I wanted to go in with you. The ogre warriors were struggling against the sudden ether tide. Teresa shook her head and stretched out a palm. A point of light gathered from magicules appeared in her hand. Massive magicules spread out from the point of light, enveloping the ogre warriors and dispelling the ether clinging to them. Go back, I can go in by myself. Teresa floated into the forest on her own without waiting for the warriors to reply. The warriors left behind by Teresa looked at each other. Then, another surge of ether tide struck. Unable to take a step forward, the warriors had no choice but to retreat to the village. Teresa floated alone in the forest. As she progressed, the concentration of ether around her grew higher and higher, even reaching a point where magicules could no longer be sensed. The forest, which should have been full of life, was now dead silent. Traces of crystallization from ether erosion could be seen everywhere. Sensing the presence of a living being, creatures refined by ether rushed rapidly toward Teresa. Boom. After throwing an explosion flame to eliminate the last wave of zombie-like etherized creatures, Teresa wiped the non-existent cold sweat from her forehead and continued floating deep into the forest. Drip tilde. A purple-red mist floated in the air. Ether, condensed into liquid, dripped from the crystallized leaves into the purple-red glowing ether river below. The surrounding ether crystals also changed from pure blue to multicolored elemental crystals. Sensing an ether content far exceeding that of the outskirts, a smile finally appeared on Teresa's solemn face. It seems I've reached the center. Teresa looked around. Because the demonic mist contained a huge amount of ether, her ether vision was distorted. Teresa could only rely on her two bead-like eyes to find the culprit behind the ether tide. Suddenly, Teresa sensed the presence of magicules. Magicules. How is that possible? How could magicules exist in such an ether-saturated area? Teresa frowned and turned her body ethereal, flying toward the place where the magicules were coming from. The ether river, which had been flowing for God knows how many years, gathered into a lake. On an island in the center of the lake, a bubble floated, with 3 items suspended inside. Massive amounts of ether continuously overflowed from these 3 items, sinking into the lake below. The lake churned due to the influx of ether, waves crashing against the shore as the ether contained within surged out. Several golden chains wrapped around the bubble, and at the edge of the island, fragments of a barrier shattered by ether erosion were scattered. The fluctuations of magicules were coming from the barrier fragments and the chains wrapped around the bubble. It looks like this is the culprit. Recalling the information the ogre village chief had given earlier, the ether tide had appeared suddenly several months ago. On the day it appeared, they had heard a loud sound of something shattering. Now it seemed that what had shattered was this magicule barrier. Part of the chains wrapping the bubble had already been stained with the ethereal blue of ether. It looked like they wouldn't last much longer. In just a few months, the forest had been turned into this state. Ether erosion was even more terrifying than Teresa had imagined. And this was just the ether overflowing from non-living objects. A crown carved from shells, a moss-covered stone staff, and a pair of crystal-clear dancing shoes. Teresa stared blankly at the items in the bubble. In that world with ether, these 3 seemed to be the personal items of the fairy king. Teresa moved in front of the bubble and gently reached out her hand. Crack tilde. A cracking sound came from the chains, and then the golden chains were quickly swallowed by the ethereal blue. External force broke the delicate balance between ether and magicules. Tiny cracks appeared on the bubble. Pop tilde. With a soft sound, the bubble dissipated into the air. The chains turned into ether-light dust. The 3 items, having lost their restraint, seemed to sense the attraction from Teresa's body and turned into 3 streams of light, rushing into her. Intangibility. Teresa's reaction was fast, but unfortunately, it was useless. The 3 streams of light sank into Teresa's little white ball-like body. Thump. 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 After a long time, Teresa felt a heartbeat again. An irresistible fatigue accompanied the heartbeat, swallowing her body. Absorber. A second before falling into a deep sleep, Teresa followed her instinct. Note. Analyzing. Analysis complete. Unique skill absorber activated. Absorbing ether. The sleeping little white ball fell to the ground with a splat. The unconsciously activated absorber greedily sucked in the surrounding ether. As the ether was absorbed, the small island beneath Teresa gradually lost its dreamlike luster and turned grayish white. Boom. Finally, the island could no longer bear the absorber's extraction and collapsed into the lake of ether liquid. Teresa also fell into the ether lake. Gurgle. Gurgle. A string of bubbles rose from the massive lake, and a strange whirlpool appeared in the center. The water level dropped rapidly. The last trace of ether in the forest was absorbed. The massive ether lake disappeared, leaving a giant cocoon emitting a brilliant ether light at the bottom of the dried lake. Under the guidance of Kaijin and the others, Rimuru and the goblins were gradually building a new village. It had been almost a month since Teresa left the village. Rimuru still hadn't received any news of her return, which made him a little worried. Mindfina, can you take me to see the village where Teresa went missing? During a moment of leisure, Rimuru returned to the ruins of the goblin village and found Mindfina, who had just returned from a search. I'm sorry, Lord Rimuru, but that village has been destroyed. Mindfina's answer sent a shock through his heart. What? Rimuru's eyes widened. What happened? Mindfina shook her head. I don't know the specifics, but the entire ogre village is nothing but burnt ruins. Not a single living thing remains. And, Mindfina added, I can smell the lingering scent of blood and souls in the air, but I can't find any traces of souls or bodies. It's as if everyone in that village vanished into thin air. Mindfina scratched the ground irritably, leaving deep claw marks. Teresa will be fine. Rimuru seemed to be comforting Mindfina, but also himself. Teresa will be fine, he repeated, then looked up. Go back to the village and get some rest. I'll have Ranga keep an eye on things here for now. But, Mindfina hesitated. No buts, that's an order, Rimuru said firmly. Now, go back to the village and rest immediately. Mindfina nodded. Understood. Lord Rimuru, you're here. We've captured a few suspicious creatures. Rigurd's voice came from afar. Suspicious creatures. Are they monsters? No, they are humans, Rigurd replied. Crack tilde. After an unknown amount of time, the giant cocoon in the center of the silent forest lake, which had lost its brilliant light, made a cracking sound. A fair and tender arm broke through the petrified cocoon, exposed to the air. Ing tilde, Teresa's unconscious murmur came from the giant cocoon. As she stretched her body, the petrified giant cocoon shattered all over the ground. Confirmation complete. Acquired additional skill. Form transformation humanoid form. The voice of the world, which shared the same voice as the coordinator, rang out in Teresa's mind. Form transformation. Teresa, still in her sleep, unconsciously repeated the words of the voice of the world in a low voice. Note. Analysis complete. Additional skill form transformation humanoid form gained the ability to freely transform between humanoid mimicry and ethereal spirit life form mimicry. Got it, stop being so noisy. Hearing the voice, a half-asleep Teresa furrowed her pretty brows, rolled over, her tone drawn out, her voice sweet. The coordinator fell silent. Wait, form transformation. Teresa suddenly opened her eyes, sitting up dazedly from the remains of the giant cocoon. Her long silver hair draped messily over her fair, naked body as she sat on the ground in a Caesar-like position. It was different from the tactile sensations of the past, it seemed, to be coming from hands. 10 snow-white fingers accurately transmitted the sensations they received to her brain. How could I have such structures as fingers? I'll put that aside for now. What is this soft, squishy thing under my hand? Squeeze tilde. Soft, smooth, bouncy, and warm to the touch. I felt the sensation from my legs for the first time in a long while. Oh, it's legs. A look of realization appeared on Teresa's face. Legs. Teresa's sleepy eyes snapped open, and her drowsiness vanished. Having sobered up, Teresa noticed the oddities in her body, and even her vision had become completely different from usual. Her fine bangs were lifted by the breeze, obstructing her vision. Teresa reached out both hands to tuck the messy bangs behind her ears, carefully examining her own hands. The pale skin tone she had as a shy ghost had now become more like the snow-white skin of a human. Shining under the midday sun, her skin was stunningly white and translucent, with veins flowing with ether and magicules faintly visible beneath. Touching it slightly, her body was bouncy, likely inherited from her ghost form, and her skin was incredibly elastic. Who tilde? Teresa let out a long sigh and stood up from the ground. Her silver hair draped down smoothly, reaching her waist. Although there was no mirror, she still figured out her current physical condition, a body resembling that of a middle school student. Whether viewed from a man's perspective or a woman's, it was undoubtedly a flat figure. Yeah, a flat figure in the true sense, not just below the neck, but also below the waist. Completely empty, smooth, with nothing there. It seemed that because of the genderless nature of an ethereal spirit life form, this humanoid body had no intention of evolving male or female physical characteristics during the evolution process. Conceptualizer. Mirror. Seeming to have suddenly thought of something, Teresa quickly constructed a mirror. Reflected in the mirror was a beautiful girl. Or beautiful boy. With messy, disheveled silver hair, looking pitiful. No gender, correctly speaking, it should be neutral. However, the Teresa in the mirror blinked her gold-red eyes, her cherry-colored lips moving slightly. No matter how you looked at it, she was a pitifully beautiful girl. Even her voice had become slightly girlish. The contours of her facial features faintly resembled Miss Mu Xuan. It is said that looks are born from the heart. Compared to her appearance in her previous life, Miss Mu Xuan had ultimately left too complex a mark in her heart. Suppressing the lingering melancholy in her heart, Teresa moved her face, attempting to find an expression that would make her look manly. Unfortunately, she failed. The girl in the mirror could be charming, cold and glamorous, frivolous, or playful, but there wasn't a single adjective that could be applied to a boy. Don't tell me these words can be used for boys, I don't believe it. Unless you send me a photo to prove it. Teresa angrily threw away the mirror in her hand. Anger aside, Teresa was still very satisfied with this body. After all, no matter which angle you looked at it from, this body could be called perfect for her. The only downside was that this perfect body was standing there naked, but what did that matter? It was fine to expose the parts that could be exposed, and the parts that couldn't be exposed hadn't grown, so even if she wanted to expose them, she couldn't. However, to avoid being eaten by some divine beast, Teresa still used the coordinator to conjure up an outfit. A black short-sleeved shirt with a white hooded vest, knee-length shorts, white socks, and black mesh sneakers. Wearing modern clothes in another world is quite exciting, isn't it? Feeling a slight throb from her body, Teresa opened her palm, and the light of ether mixed with magicules flickered in her hand. The stone scepter appeared in her hand. Compared to when it had just broken through the seal, this staff was clearly more spirited. The rough bluestone material had evolved into smooth white jade, the flower carving at the top of the scepter had been replaced by a shell-shaped crown, and the end of the scepter had been eroded into transparent crystals, shimmering with the radiance of magicules. Note. Analysis complete. Unique skill stone scepter primal spirit effects are as follows. Chant discard, attribute transformation, ether conversion, magicules transmission, damage nullification. The fourth unique skill. Teresa bounced the staff in her hand. It was heavy and tough, and the feel seemed much better than a mop handle. Boom. The tip of the staff, condensing explosion flame, struck the petrified lake bottom that had lost its ether. Violent energy exploded from the tip of the staff, and the qualitatively changed flame surged and burned across the stone lake bottom. Carrying the stone scepter on her shoulder, Teresa slowly walked out of the scorching flames, with her movements guided by Belial. Coordinator, how long have I been out? Has the ogre mission been completed? Note. Analyzing. Analysis complete. Ogre commission. Resolve the strange energy overflowing from the great forest completed. Time elapsed since the event was resolved 69 days, 12 hours. How long? Teresa was shocked. Note. Time elapsed since the event was resolved 69 days, 12 hours. Does that mean I slept in that eggshell for 2 months? Teresa swallowed hard. Note. Yes. Coordinator, map out the shortest route to the ogre village for me. I need to go turn in the mission. Note. Coordinator navigation continues to serve you. Route planning complete. Turn left ahead. Straight line distance. Teresa interrupted the coordinator's loading. Note. Route planning complete. Go straight ahead to the front left. Detected magicules reaction near the main body. Source of magicules unnamed individual, ogre cub. Teresa stopped her rapid steps and looked around. Sure enough, she saw a refreshing light blue amidst a cluster of petrified, whitish trees. Looks like that ogre girl. Teresa touched her lips, lightly tapped her foot on the ground, and drifted towards the blue. Note. Confirmation complete. Recorded magicules fluctuation. Long time no. Before Teresa could finish, she saw the blue-haired girl leaning against the trees with her eyes closed, cradling her severely injured pink-haired older sister. The sister's small, tender horns, a symbol of the ogre race, had been cleanly severed at the root. Both lawless had pale faces and chapped lips. If not for the slight rise and fall of their chests and the faint magicals fluctuations emanating from them, Teresa might have thought they were already dead. Conceptualizer, magic construction. Teresa raised the stone scepter in her hand, and a pure white light bloomed from its tip. Note. Unique skill conceptualizer activated. Ether absorption complete. Ether condensation complete. Ether attribute conversion astral ether, complete. Ether transformation magicals, complete. Magicals node conception, complete. Magicals node connection complete. Magic model construction complete. Confirmation complete. Successfully acquired extra skill Heart of Consolation. Silver vine phantoms began to spread from the base of the stone scepter, and a vibrant blue lily quickly bloomed from the fork in the vines. Teresa gently pointed the staff at the two lawless lying on the ground. The fully bloomed lily transformed into blue light, gathering at the tip of the scepter. The ethereal blue light exploded with the activation of the magic, transforming into a dazzling, gigantic lily phantom. Then, the phantom shattered into light dust, surging into the bodies of the two lawless. The pink-haired girl's wounds rapidly faded as magicals surged in, and the faces of both fallen lawless gradually regained color due to the influx of magicals. The younger sister, whose injuries were lighter, was the first to wake up. Sensing the lingering magicals fluctuations in the air, she immediately became alert, holding her sister even tighter. A human with magicals fluctuations, are they an accomplice of the demon who destroyed the village? But it's similar to Teresa Sama's magicals fluctuations, yet slightly different. Has Teresa Sama been devoured? Thinking of this, the blue-haired girl's breathing became rapid again, and her azure eyes were filled with fear. Don't be nervous, it's me. Teresa put away her staff. Seeing that the younger sister hadn't relaxed her guard, she intended to step forward to check on her sister's injuries. The younger sister, holding her sister's body, tried to retreat but was blocked by the petrified bushes. Teresa was a little puzzled by the younger sister's reaction, but soon she seemed to understand the problem. Sorry, I didn't think it through. Teresa twirled a strand of hair, a sweet, awkward smile on her face. You haven't seen me like this, so it's normal to be scared. Teresa transformed back into her little white ball form as a shy ghost. However, Teresa's transformation only solidified the blue-haired loli's suspicions. Teresa Sama must have been eaten. Just like those orcs who ate the village, they gained Teresa Sama's abilities. Don't come any closer. Seeing the little white ball attempt to approach, the blue-haired loli hugged her sister tightly, glaring fiercely at Teresa with wide eyes, trying to appear aggressive. Teresa, not understanding the situation, didn't know what to do for a moment. Grumbled tilde tilde tilde. Just as the two sides were in a standoff, staring wide-eyed, a soft sound echoed between them. The side that made the sound instantly lost its momentum. The deflated blue-haired girl sat on the ground, holding her sister, burying her head in her sister's embrace, and began to sob. You're all right, she vaguely heard her sister's voice and felt her sister's hand caress her hair, that's wonderful. The older sister, having completed her treatment, woke up. Although still weak, she stretched out her hands to comfort her crying younger sister. Yo, girls, are you hungry? Want a bowl? Teresa's voice reached the ears of the two lawless. Just like that evening, 2 bowls of steaming, thick meat stew floated towards the two lawless under Teresa's telekinetic control. Thank you for your rescue, Teresa Sama. The pink-haired loli, with Teresa's magicals still lingering on her, stood up from her sister's embrace. Eat first, then explain slowly, no rush. Teresa comforted them. The pink-haired loli nodded and took the meat stew from the air. Imhem. Teresa fell into thought as she listened to the pink-haired girl recount the events of the past few days. The ones who attacked your village. Orcs. Teresa, having returned to her human form, was somewhat confused. Note. Orcs, low-level monsters, possess the head of a wild boar and a stout body. They are difficult to form into a fighting force, and individually, cannot contend with high-level monsters like ogres. The coordinator timely explained the orc race to Teresa. I see. Teresa, sitting cross-legged on the ground, frowned. But why was your village attacked by orcs? Both lawless gently shook their heads. You two stay here for a while, I'll go check out your village. After a moment of contemplation, Teresa decided to personally investigate the ogre village. The pink-haired loli looked at her despondent younger sister beside her and tugged at Teresa's clothes. Teresa Sama, can you take us in? We can do anything, we won't be a burden to you. Although I. The pink-haired loli suddenly became dispirited as she said this. Teresa sensed that the pink-haired girl was trying hard to absorb magicules, but the magicules were still leaking from her body. Teresa stroked the older sister's pink hair. When she raised her hand again, a small horn made of ether crystal appeared where the sister's horn had been broken. The air was filled with energy she had never seen before. If you can't find anyone to rely on, then follow me. Teresa's pleasant voice reached their ears. I'll give you names. Teresa squatted down, looking at the two lawless at eye level. Really? The younger sister covered her rosy little mouth. But, won't that deplete your? The older sister looked at Teresa with some concern. It's fine. Teresa waved her hand. From today on, you are Ram, and you are Rem. Both ether and magicules simultaneously became depleted within Teresa, but the ether and magicules abundant in this world rapidly surged into Teresa's body, filling the void. Thank you, Teresa-sama. Ram clutched Rem's hand, gazing intently at the silver-haired girl, who was impossibly beautiful under the afternoon sun. Note: Unique skill conceptualizer activated. Ether absorption complete. Ether condensation complete. Ether attribute conversion astral ether, complete. Ether transformation magicules, complete. Magicules node conception, complete. Magicules node connection complete. Magic model construction complete. Confirmation complete. Successfully acquired extra skill power of transcendence glimpse into the past. In the faded image, surging flames burned the village. Countless orcs, clad in iron armor, stormed into the village, devouring the bodies of their fallen comrades and ogre warriors. Houses collapsed in the flames. A strange figure stood with her back to them in the fire. It was a small, cute girl with pigtails shaped like horns. She slowly turned her head. The firelight dispelled the darkness from her face, revealing a sorrowful mask adorned with tears, as if weeping for this tragedy. Ahem, this is an aside. Are there any friends who want to urge me to update in person tilde tilde tilde? If so, then tilde tilde tilde. Reader group. 616,480,253 Teresa's slime farm is built. Come on, a few people, let's liven up this quiet group tilde pathetic. That's the end of part 1. Part 2 is coming soon.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and support our channel for more stories.